Testing, testing. We'll call to order the City Council work session meeting from Monday, November 24th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Mark Bittner.
Here.
Shannon Derby.
Here.
Bill Leclerc.
Here.
Doug Brandt.
Here.
Tim Petrie.
Here.
Bonnie Shimalunas.
Here.
Scott Steckmesser.
Here.
Adam Husky.
Here.
Darla Leclerc.
Here.
All present.
Okay, Mark is with us remotely, so we do have number 4 tonight. Consideration of any council member's request to participate in the meeting from a remote location. Like I said, Mark Bittner is joining us over the phone tonight, so we'll just need a motion in a second to welcome Mark into the meeting.
I'll make a motion to have Mark join us remotely.
Thank you, Doug.
I'll second it.
By Shannon. Any council discussion? See none, we'll do a roll call vote. Amanda.
Shannon Derby.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Doug Brandt.
Aye.
Tim Petrie.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimalunas.
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all for that. Welcome, Mark. You are officially part of the meeting. On to number 5, public hearing. We have one tonight, public hearing on the 2026 proposed city budget. If you wish to talk about the budget, please step up to the podium on your left. We're just talking about the 2026 proposed city budget. I will make 3 calls if you wish to come up and speak. You can give your name and address for the record, and I will now open up the first call.
Good evening, one and all. My name is Dean, my wife Marilee. Last name is Hervela. We live at 2730 42nd Street here in Two Rivers. We would like to talk about the flower fund, the Perpetual Care Flower Fund. And I just want to make it clear that there is a difference between perpetual care, which would be mowing the grass, trimming the stones, picking up the leaves and making the cemeteries look really good. And then there's the flower fund. Those are 2 separate things. I found out this was on the Seahaven News app. Rivers addresses questions over graveside flower fund and taxpayer costs. This was posted November 23rd at 7 in the morning. The second paragraph of that article says the city used to put flowers on grave sites belonging to people who passed away prior to 1992. Now, if you were not a longtime Two Rivers resident and you looked at that, you would think, my gosh, since the city put flowers on everybody's grave prior to 1992, so that is wrong. Those flowers, people put their hard-earned money into this back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and so forth. A lot of you have heard this song because we've been at all the meetings. We want to keep this flower fund going. It is near and dear to our hearts. What I have with me tonight is my father-in-law passed away in 1976, and my wife finally talked her mother into getting in on the Perpetual Care Flower Fund before they stopped the enrollment, which I believe was probably 92, 93, somewhere around in there. And so she got a receipt. She paid $200, and it says Perpetual Care Flowers, Holy Cross Section B, and so on and so forth. She's got the receipt for the $200 that she gave.
And that qualified her for 4 geraniums.
Yeah, the cost was 1 geranium is 50, 2 is 100, and so on and so forth. So at that time, $200 back in that day was a lot of money for a widow since 76. And then she also got a cemetery convenience. Yeah. And what this is, do you want to explain it? You're better off than me.
She paid $200 for the plot, a double plot at that time. And according to the ordinance or the state statute, I believe, a percentage of that went back into the perpetual care, not the flower fund, the perpetual care fund for caring for that grave. So out of the $200, $80 went back into that fund and guaranteed that that grave would be cared for, the grass would be cut, trimmed, and leaves picked up on that grave forever. And this is notarized by the city clerk at that time, and signed by the city clerk and the city manager.
And that was Hillary Rath and Gerald Caston at that time. Then we kind of researched a little farther and went to the city ordinances, and I found one in section 439, subsection A, where it says in here, thereafter the city shall once annually on Memorial Day, basically plant those flowers. So,
Annually, there's no,
yeah, there's
for
no.
20
there's no
years,
cutoff
30
date.
years, whatever, it's annually.
So we researched it a little farther. We went over to Dominus Flowers on the south side, talked to the owners, and they told us that about a month and a half ago, they got a call from the city saying, we're not buying flowers this year. We're not buying, and they get 1,000 geraniums.
For the city.
For Day and Martin, that we're not doing it. So, okay, who's the other person? Well, it was Green Acres when they were located on Mishkat Road. Now he's on 310. Went over there and talked to Ryan. He said, yeah, about a month and a half ago, they called me and said, we're not doing it anymore. We quit it. What a shock to us, because we've been to all the meetings trying to fight for this program. And now they're telling us that they got a call from the city saying, we're not doing this anymore.
6 weeks ago.
So I guess.
So you can't go the end of April or the beginning of May to these florists and say, we want 1,000 geraniums. That just doesn't happen. They both told us, in fact, Ryan from Green Acres said he should have known 2 weeks ago if these geraniums were needed or not. Dominitz told us that the 1st of January, they have to know by the 1st of January, and then there may be an increase, which he is willing to absorb because he's ordering the flowers so late. Dominitz charges $2.80 per 4-inch pot, and he supplies 1,000 geraniums. Green Acres charges $1 more, or about $3.50. $3.50 for each pot, and he supplies 1,000 geraniums. But again, they won't be able to supply them unless you let them know yesterday.
Right.
So,
So I guess that's our speech here tonight. Thank you very much for listening to us. And we've been, like I said, we've been to the meetings, that we've been treated very cordial. Appreciate that.
and we did meet with Mike, or we talked to Mike, emailed Mike. We met with Kyle personally. So we're trying to follow the proper channels that are requested.
So again,
Okay,
very much.
thank you. Yeah, we'll probably talk about that later on in the agenda. We talk about the budget. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Catherine Dalkey, 3727 Adams Street. And I have a few, I was able to attend the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting that was held previously and watch the sausage being made. So I appreciate that opportunity, as well as this opportunity for public conversation. I have some procedural questions. I'm pretty good at reading budgets. I've been balancing them for 30 years. Some of the puts and takes on here, I just like to understand. And in first, and I'm referring to page 4 of your budget plan. Oh, nope, I'm not. Flip that back. I'm page 3, ahead of myself. Looking at your revenues, the first line item of revenues, you have total taxes with a forecast percent budget change from last year of 2.54%. There's been conversation on council for several months now about a potential tax levy increase on or around 2.5%. Is that what this line item represents? I don't know if you can answer me if this is a formal meeting or public comments out there, but I'm going to throw that out there as an open question. Do with it what you may.
Kyle can address it if you'd like. We're not supposed to, I
Okay.
guess.
That line you were looking at, taxes. It includes many different kinds of taxes. Local property taxes are one part of that.
Okay, but that's not specifically the potential tax levy that has been talked about of about 2.5%. The numbers look the same, so I thought I would ask.
Not just the property,
It's not just the property tax levy.
all taxes.
Okay. So as I'm looking at the overall, you're looking at a percent change from previous budget. You've had items taken out, a huge jump in total miscellaneous revenue of 107%. That's a big percentage jump. So if you look at the bottom line, you have about a 3.05% increase in proposed revenue. And I guess from a citizen's perspective, I'm asking where that money is going to come from. I know there was a lot of fine line cutting of the expenditures, but when I'm looking at the revenues, is that what is going to be impacting as new taxes imposed upon the citizens of Two Rivers above and beyond what has already been taken out from assessments from a property perspective? Is that the additional levy that we're looking at? And I can't answer that question, but it's out there for the public to hear and ask, and hopefully you'll address that at some time during the budget. The other question that I had as I was looking through is there are a number of instances. We had a forecast budget for 2025. You have a projected year-end number, and in a number of cases, it's significantly lower. Your projected year-end is going to be a lot lower. When you're planning your budget for 2026, do you take those monies that were not spent, does that roll into, or does that cause a reassessment of, hey, it always happens in my department. If I budget for $2 million and I only spend 180, $1.8 million, guess what I get for the next year? 1.8 million. Because they don't want me to go back and ask for more money because I didn't spend it. And that's not the case in this budget. If you go through line item by line item, there are places where the money was not spent in the last year, salt and ice. We talked about that at the planning meeting. But you're seeing an increase in the following year. So I'm just asking some procedural questions. If you can't answer them now, hopefully it'll come to light in the hearing. Thank you.
You. Anyone else still on the first call about budget? If not, I'll close the first call and open up the second call.
People. My name's Kate. I'm on the KCAD. I'm on the library board. I just wanted to make everyone aware, in case you're not, that the library this year, our amazing library, which we can all agree is fantastic, amazing staff doing fantastic work, and we only asked for slightly over $13,000 bump, 2%, which was denied by the Finance Committee meeting. So 2% this year, I hope we get it. Please, we really need it. That's goes toward all of our programming staff, longer hours. But if we don't get it, like we didn't get last year, we will have to make some cuts. So please consider that $13,635, I think it is, a really small amount compared to this huge budget. Please consider it. We did not get an increase last year. The library could really use it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? We are in the second call. If not, I'll close the second call and open up the third and final call. Okay, see no one else, I'll close the third and final call. Thank you all though for all you that came tonight and made your comments, appreciate it. On to number 6, input from the public. If you wish to address the council about an issue that may be on the agenda or something on a future agenda item, please step up to the podium on your left and you may state your name and address for the record. Please be aware that you do have 3 minutes to address the council and that the council may ask questions of you, but we cannot discuss it because it is not on the agenda. So, input from the public. No apology needed.
Bad habit. I did want to mention an item that is on the agenda this evening, and it has to do with the potential funding for the pavilion for the concession stand. And as I was looking through the materials in preparation for this, I was looking for any sort of supportive materials. for that and could not find any. And I decided to go back and do some research. And I went back through all of the meeting minutes back to July. And I know that there was a lot of public comments with regard to the concession stand. I think about 30 people stood before you and said, look, please just fix it to code. And the decision was made to explore spending up to $450,000. And as I went back the previous meeting minutes, it indicated that the advisory rec board had already, before that, put plans together, had been exploring, had been in joint conversations with, we'll have a speaker tonight, folks from the, I'll call it the Tourism Explore Two Rivers Board and the room tax for alternative methods. And I read back through the meeting minutes, and I believe it was the Room Tax Commission had a presentation conversation, and there was comments in there that they would spend up to $250,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking for my notes here from the meeting itself for that, but there were some requirements here that they were looking to, and that was to then be brought forward to the Explore Two Rivers Board of Directors, and nowhere in their meeting minutes from the subsequent meetings did I find that brought forward. So I just want to make sure as you're having conversations that due process is followed all the way through, that there's open and transparent meeting minutes and notes out so the public can follow this, and there's no appearance of any, I'll characterize it as a backdoor deal. If it's not visible, then we have to ask why, especially when there is a great human cry. If there's a funding method that's alternative, terrific. We'd like to know what the strings are attached to that, and we can only find out if that process has been followed. Thank you.
Anyone else? Input from the public? Seeing none, we'll go to number 6, discussion items. Discussion of room tax proposal and funding commitment for Neshota Beach concession stand.
For the past month or so, we've been teasing to the council and the public that there is a room tax commission alternative funding proposal coming, and everybody on the council knows a little bit about it, but I don't think anybody knows everything about it. So, Mr. Rick Carey, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Kyle. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Carey. I think most of you know me, but I own the Metalwork Corporation at 1700 Monroe Street. I'm also one of the primary investors in the Cobblestone, led the way on raising 15 local investors to develop the Cobblestone. And today, I think we talked about a good time to come and talk to the council about this. And my presentation today is more about alternate financing concepts, especially as we're talking about a perpetual flower fund, or if we're looking at how we can fund the library. I wanted to talk a little bit about, or to the council, about different ways that we can do that. And I do have a presentation on the concession stand at Neshota Beach, but it is more of a hypothetical of like, hey, we could have looked at it like this. We never really had an opportunity to talk about it. It was messaged, in my opinion, improperly. It really got its own spin going without us having all the proper information that's out there. I'm going to present it today how I thought it should be presented, which was alternate funding methods that don't impact the people of Two Rivers in a significant way. And that really talks about revenue bonds and how we can do that. And in that context, I want to talk about the Cobblestone Hotel a little bit, TIFs and TIDs, and how we came about doing that. I came to the finance committee. I talked a little bit about economic development, talked about TIDs and TIFs with them. And I want to do that with the city council a little bit because we have a great success story with the Cobblestone and the economic development that came around it. I want to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to talk about how that could have been applied to the concession stand as well, to minimize what happens to our taxpayers. I've been to the listening session. I've been to the finance committee. I attend quite a few of either one of these meetings or other meetings to try to understand the best way to serve the community. I personally grew up in Manitowoc and Two Rivers. My parents had the Volkswagen Mazda dealership on the lakeshore. I've been going to Fatso's Subs to get a club sub since about 1978. I know this community well. I feel an obligation to the community as a steward of it. I'm not ever going to be on city council. I hope that allows me to have these types of conversations with you in a long-term way as I go through this community, try to help it grow, try to create employment. I feel this obligation, and I hope this isn't the last time I can come and talk to you about things like this. So let's kick that off. And I'm sorry, I'm going to kind of turn away from you as I look up here But today I've got two PowerPoint slides. One will be just how we did the Cobblestone Hotel and how we did a revenue bond through the TID process. So if we can go ahead and hit the next slide. All right, so I want to begin with a little bit of definition of what a TID and a TIF is. Some of you already know this, but quite frankly, we have a nice YouTube following that is going to hear about how these things work. And I want to just take an opportunity to talk about this. Thought during the budgeting session, this is a really good place for us to talk about it. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how TIDs and TIFs work. So I'm going to go through it first. First thing we do is we create a TID, a tax incremental district. It's a geographically defined area within a community. And we have a joint review session, and that involves people from Two Rivers, a person at large, the Manitowoc County, also Lakeshore Technical College, because they're impacted by, these are the taxing entities when you see your tax bill. We also have the, an at-large citizen, and obviously the Two Rivers Public School District as well. All those folks, we have to have a majority of them that say yes to the creation of the TID itself. In 2018, we got them to say yes. Manitowoc County is always a no. So we always know that we have to get 3 of the 4 to make a TID work. So they're not easy to do. But when we do, basically we created, this keeps, the first thing that happens is we take a look at what the tax rate is of those entities at that time, and it freezes it. It says, this is our tax base right now. And then what we're gonna do with a TID is we're gonna do TIFs. That's the tax incremental financing. And rather than say the words every single time, we go TID or TIF. So TIF is, and sometimes it's used a little bit improperly by actually when you mean TID, but a TIF is basically, we look at how much value, taxable value is going to be added with the creation of an economic stimulus, right? Are we going to create more tax rate? If we do, Cobblestone's a good example of that. We increased it pretty significantly, and the increase in funds beyond that basis goes into a pot that we can use for additional economic development. It's basically that flywheel effect. If we have the hotel is created, then we have other entities like Sobeys, and we have the Violet Inn who can invest in that district. But the thing that I thought was really cool about this last one is the fact that, and Adam, we talked about this at the Finance Committee. The fact is that Starbucks came in. They saw the development within this, they didn't think TID district, but they said, hey, this area is developing right now. We get the traffic count. We're going to build a new Starbucks here. That creates additional tax revenue for us. And they did not use our financing arm to do that. But other entities that, but for this tax incremental financing, wouldn't have been able to improve this area, actually do. So if we use, TIFs are used to support capital expenditures. They're also used to do things like sewer replacements, or they can be used for street replacements. I'm not talking about that today. That's one really good use of them. And what it does, instead of having a big hit, we got like a $5 million, $6 million project, rather than depleting our general fund or take that big hit that first year, we can spread that over 25 or 30 years. And the way we do that is our bonds, in this case, a revenue bond. So we go out to the market through an accounting firm and a law firm, and we will basically sell a bond. A bond is like a mortgage. So we go out there and we can get about 3.5% bonds, and they can amortize anywhere from 20 to 30 years, but call it 25 years. And we can take that and we can smooth that out. We can get this capital expenditure done, but we can pay for it over time. Now, the ideal sense in the TIF would be that we pay for it through that incremental revenue that comes in. So again, the citizens of Two Rivers aren't paying for this. The actual improvement to the properties was paying for that. And now people come in and they'll invest within our community. That increases the tax base. Now, after about 20 to 27 years, that TID gets retired. And we've had plenty of TIDs that have been retired. And when it does, all that basis comes back to our taxing entity, right? We have that for our libraries. We have that for our other funds that we need within our community. And trust me, being, I feel like I'm getting old pretty fast. 20 years goes by pretty quick. It's in 2018, we created this TID, and today is 2005. And it seems like yesterday we built the hotel. And we're 7 years into a 27-year term with that. So if we can go to the next slide. All right. I've hit a few of these things, but one of the things I want to talk about is that TID, that TID District 12, or the TID 12, we've created over $7 million of incremental value just in that one area. That's in 7 years, $1 million a year that we've created in incremental taxable value for our community. That's a success story. That's what you want. If you go to school and you learn about these things, that's a demonstrated case of where it really works. Now, from there, I talked a little bit about Starbucks, but here's the beauty of Starbucks. And again, I want to talk about this but-for clause. Sometimes you'll get a critique of the TIDs or TIFs is that, hey, that property would have been developed had this not happened. The but-for clause is extremely powerful. In your application for tax incremental financing, you have to overcome this concept of but-for. So if I don't have, and I can tell you the hotel, this is absolutely the case. We would not have been able to build the hotel had we not had that tax incremental financing. Now, there are two types of TIFs. There are pay-as-you-go. The way that that works is that I hand you, City of Two Rivers or the taxing entity, my check for my taxes, and you hand it right back to me. That's one way. The other way is upfront financing. The hotel was upfront financing. That's where the revenue bonds come in. The city took out a revenue bond. We basically got the money up front. The bank looked at that and said, hey, we're going to count that as equity. That's part of our process for financing you. And that's what made this project actually happen. It's performing, it's generating revenue, it's doing exactly what it was supposed to do. If we can go to the next slide. This is actually the cash flow performance analysis that I received from the city on tax incremental district number 12. And as you can see, it's a little bit small in the writing. Hopefully people can see it at home, but you can begin to see that incremental value that came with this. Now, we have two major expansions that have happened in the area. Starbucks is another one as well. And we have more that's coming in, maybe across the street from there and other areas. We have additional improvements coming to our community, all because of this type of stimulus. It's not perfect. I don't want to stand up here and say there's absolutely no downside to a TID. They have to be properly administrated. They have to be reviewed with scrutiny. But I have my experience that has been done every single time, whether it's you on the council or others. We have good stewards of the community who have asked the hard questions and made sure that these were good investments for our community. But the best thing about this, we're able to do this without burdening our taxpayers. You can go to the next slide. This was where the Cobblestone Hotel was immediately before we began building the hotel. This is what it looked like. And this is off of Google Maps Street View. You can go back in history and look at it. Settingers Hardware is right behind it. That's the old fish market. You see all the windows are boarded up. This was one of the main streets of our community. This is what it looked like. Now, for fun, we get the next slide. That's what it looks like today. This is what we want for our community. I will get to it in a little bit, but the other thing we want for our community is we want good partners when we do this. One of the things I heard, I did a lot of listening sessions when we were building the hotel. I went to Historical Society, I gave speeches on it. One of the things I heard, we need to preserve our history. So when you pick a partner who actually thinks that that's important. And if we can go to the next slide. This is the Settinger safe. This was in the Settinger hardware store when we bought the store and we were tearing it down. It was sitting there. This safe actually dates back to the original Settinger hardware store. If you can go to the next slide, which is on this map, which actually domes the entryway of the Cobblestone Hotel, along with the safe. If I bring people to the Cobblestone, if I bring people to our community to take a look at it, I bring them to that safe. I look at the Settinger name and I point out on the map where the Settinger hardware store was. In every single one of our rooms, we have pictures of the Two Rivers community. There are pictures that came from the Historical Society. So when we think about moving forward and we think about how we improve our city, picking a good partner is absolutely essential as well. You can go to the next slide. This is the private partner. This is the private-public partnership, the PPP. Beyond the revenue bonds, we need to think about who we pick as partners. And I encourage the city council to think about this. We have a housing need in our community. I heard it at the listening session. We're going to have to think about who we can bring in here to build housing that will satisfy that, if that is what the city decides it needs to do. But when we do, it's not always the lowest bid. Please, I encourage you to think about who will preserve our history, who will think it could be a good steward of our city going forward by looking to the past. All right. That's it for kind of the history of the TIDs and the TIFs and how the revenue bonds built into it. So if I could start the next PowerPoint. Actually, I like this. All right, notice at the top, hypothetical, okay? This is a hypothetical presentation. This is not me standing here today saying you got to rethink the concession stand, but this is the messaging I thought it should have been. And I'm speaking for myself. I am on the Room Tax Commission, the vice chair of the Room Tax Commission. I can answer questions about the Room Tax Commission, but this is my hypothetical presentation of how I think it should have gone down and how we should have presented it. So funding the future, how municipal bonding can help build a new Neshota Beach concession stand with rentable space with minimal impact on citizen taxpayers. Next slide. Our goal to construct a new park concession stand to serve residents and visitors of Two Rivers, to fund the project with as little impact to the taxpayers of Two Rivers as possible, both in the short term and the long term. Estimated total cost approximately $2 million. Next slide. Okay, municipal bonds are debt securities issued by local governments to finance public projects, similar to a mortgage for your home. The purpose allows cities to spread the cost of large investments over time, and the repayments are made through designated revenue sources or general taxation. We'll go into that next slide. All right, we have general obligation bonds. Now, again, that's a really good example for a street. If you needed to redo a major street, when we redid the streets here and the sidewalks here, we took out a general obligation bond. That's paid by the taxpayers. That's not what I'm talking about today, but that is one of the types of municipal bonds. What I would like to talk about are the revenue bonds, repaid from specific revenue streams such as room tax or user fees. Go to the next slide, please. All right, proposed funding approach for the new concession stand. We know, and we have been very, very good, and I will give a lot of credit to Mike on getting grants. They're huge. Every other community, like similarly situated communities ours, goes out and gets grants. Typically, they're matching grants. That's really important. So the state of Wisconsin will come in and say, look, we'll give you $1 million, up to $2 million, but we'll give you $1 million towards this project. But you, the city of Two Rivers, got to figure out the other $1 million. We'll help you on the other side of the equation. So we did a revenue bond for $750,000 issued at 3.5%, 25-year term. Our debt servicing, in other words, what we have to pay to that bond on an annual basis, approximately $45,000. The key would be a rentable event space for 70 people. And this is really important. That 70-person part of this, the event space, drives revenue, but it also puts heads in beds, which I'll get to in a second. There would be a rentable event space for 70 people. We have 17,000 additional room tax revenue and 26,000 in incremental use revenue. I have a pro forma for this. I didn't put it in here tonight because I didn't want to get burdened by the pro formas, but because those are easily challengeable. You can question them. They're always forward-looking. There's never a guarantee with a pro forma. This is their very nature. You try to do the best you can, and you look at existing rental. We have a lot of rentable space that we use right now for our pavilions. We try to figure out, hey, what would we charge them for it? What are the percentage of use that it would get? Everything is forward-looking and speculative, but we can try to use historical facts to project the future. It's what we do in business, and it's what we do as cities as well. Then we would go to the general fund contribution. This is where the taxpayers would have to pay. $100,000, this is just an example, but $100,000 for a $2 million pavilion. But you know the best part about this? I will ask you, is it easier to fix a brand new building and maintain it or to maintain a 60-plus-year-old building? It's just a consideration, but quite frankly, a 60-plus-year-old building is going to need maintenance continuously. It's like buying a 100-year-old home or building a new home. Typically, you have good 10 years where you got to worry about the roof or the HVAC or the plumbing. All right, private donations.
Rick, can I pause just there for a moment?
Sure.
So previously the council gave us a cap of $450,000 or $500,000 to stay under, come back, explore, put a funding package together, come back. That $500,000, we know it's going to be more like $250,000 after we get grants and sponsorships and all that. That $250,000 goes all the way down to $100,000 with this approach.
Under this hypothetical approach, this is a very realistic $100,000 that would cost us, the taxpayers of Two Rivers. All right. It also assumes private donations of $150,000. I believe that's relatively low. We did better than that on other parks that we've done, but that is, again, speculation. I'm thinking we can get 150, but I tell you what, I've learned in life when you give people goals, more often than not, they're able to achieve them. So we give them a $150,000 goal to go get that. It wouldn't surprise me if it came back at $250,000, and we have absolutely zero obligations on the taxpayers of Two Rivers. That is how a revenue bond can help a city like ours. Now, this is a Neshota Beach concession stand. It's a highly charged public opinion on that. And I'm not saying that we need to change anything here tonight. But think about this. If we want to bring families to Two Rivers, what about an aquatic center? It's been very, very popular in Manitowoc. That brings families in. But I'll tell you what the citizens of Two Rivers aren't going to want. I think everybody on the board would agree. We don't want to pay for that out of the general fund. If that happens, I would be the first. I looked before coming here. I believe that I pay about $300,000 a year in taxes in the city of Two Rivers. I have a vested interest in not paying more taxes. So I want to figure out alternate methods where the tourists, the visitors of our community, the users of facilities help pay for these types of projects for us. And I want to encourage the council to think about how we can use revenue bonds and alternate financing methods to do that. If we can go to the next slide. So again, why do we use revenue bonds? We can leverage outside funding, maximize the impact of grants and contributions. Again, that's that matching part. If we know that a $2 million project is going to cost $1 million because we can go get grants for that, that's a great deal for us. And I've heard it before, well, we really shouldn't try to go out and get anything. But we're competing against other communities. Kimberly, we're competing against Brilliant. They're going out and getting them. And that's the card game. That's the game. Those are rules of the game that we play. And if they're going to go out, somebody's going to get that grant. Why shouldn't it be Two Rivers? Let's not play poker and make aces low for ourselves and high for everybody else. All right, spread costs over time. We avoid large immediate tax burdens. We match costs and benefits. Visitors and residents help pay for the future use, not just residents. Encourages economic development, quality amenities, attract potential companies looking to invest in new opportunities, and it's a low cost. Now, we can do a bond for 3.5%. The effective inflation over the last 100 years is 3%. So your cost of funds is 0.5% on our revenue bond when you factor in inflation. We can go to the next one. How room tax supports repayment. Okay, this is really one of the things I want to talk about from the Room Tax Commission. Wisconsin State Statute 66.0615 covers room tax. Tourism promotion and tourism development means any of the following that are significantly used by transient tourists and are reasonably likely to generate paid overnight stays at more than one establishment. That is our mission statement at the Room Tax Commission. That right there, by state statute, tells us what we got to do. And when we open every meeting, I generally speaking remind everybody that's our mission statement. That's what we have to do. So when we look at that, and I know I heard that it was brought up about the contingencies put on the existing opportunity to basically fund the renovation of the existing concession stand. The reason those contingencies were put on there was because if we have these different event spaces, in this case, it was Adam's suggestion of the back area being enclosed, we are more likely to get overnight stays. That then conforms with the Wisconsin State Statute of what our mission statement is. So that's why the strings were attached to that, so that we could get something that was more likely to get people to stay overnight at the Cobblestone, yes. At the Lighthouse Inn, yes. At the Cool City Motel, at the Violet Inn. We have a lot of places where tourists can stay, and that type of amenity will make sure that they stay overnight, or at least a higher percentage will. Room tax revenue source generated from local lodging stays, as I indicated, including STRs, designated for tourism-related capital projects. The concession stand will enhance tourism, appeal as well as encourage more overnight stays by increasing events throughout the year, but only if there is rentable space for the event. I want to talk about that. If we, in the hypothetical I had of a 70 people event space, I factored in, based off of experience, that about 35% of the people who would use that would stay overnight. Come in for a family reunion. When you do that, generally speaking, not everybody lives in this town. They're going to stay at a hotel. They're going to then, in return, drive revenue through the Room Tax Commission. Okay. Then finally, Avenue revenue stability provides a reliable stream of bond repayment. So again, the Room Tax Commission can be a part of this calculation. When we look at things and say, hey, we have this new tax coming in, I say new, but at least it's dramatically improved over the years. And when it comes in from a funding mechanism, it comes 100% into the city's fund. And the city is mandated by law to give 70% of that back to the Room Tax Commission or other tourism entity. So that's the mechanism, how it works. That's the mission statement for it. If we can go to the next slide. So summary benefits, community impact, enhanced recreational events and tourism, including community use of the facility beyond the tourism season. This in turn encourages families to move to Two Rivers. I've heard over and over again that we're trying to get people and families to move to our community. I couldn't agree more. I grew up here. I want others to grow up here and enjoy the town that we have. But to do that, to attract people who aren't from here and don't necessarily know why to come here, going to Neshota Beach is a big deal. They see that. They see their own families walking down the beach. If we happen to do an aquatic center, that's in Manitowoc. I've seen that bring families into the community. I'm not saying we should do an aquatic center. I'm just using it as an example of things that we can use revenue bonds for and use tax to try to benefit our city without burdening our taxpayers. Financial responsibility, blended funding approach limits taxpayer burden on the upfront cost. In addition, a new building will have a significantly more limited maintenance requirement. Talked about that already. Long-term value, sustainable investments in local quality of life, and a well-balanced local economy, which includes tourism, industrial, and service-related professions. One thing I've heard over and over again is, oh, we're entirely focused on tourism. We're not. But I was here, and a lot of you were here when Hamilton was here. And when they left, it left a void within our community that is still trying to be filled. We're still trying to fix that. We were too heavily dependent on industrial, and now we need that blend. What I've learned in life is balance in all things begins to really, really resonate on how we balance our economy and how we benefit and go forward as a community. I think that might be the end. Maybe one more. Just my questions and answers. So I'm here to answer any questions I can. I don't want to give legal advice on bonding or anything like that, but I'm here to answer any questions on the Room Tax Commission or on the bonding.
Questions? Adam, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple, and I'll get to one later on, but I'll bring it up right now as well. But first off, on the revenue bonds, if you fall short, who does that fall back on?
They are backed by the city of Two Rivers. So
Okay.
you would still come back to the city of Two Rivers.
So it'd still fall back on the taxpayers if we fall short on the projections that we could raise through the revenue bonds.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then my second one was my concern from room tax, and I did share that with Joe and the rest of council. And the support for the wayside that is going down this year from 30 to 15,000 really puts a burden on the citizens to pay for that wayside. And when we got that wayside, it was all brought to us in the form of tourism and what that's going to help. And as I expressed to Mark at the Personnel and Finance meeting, it's not residents that are really using that bathroom. It's tourists. And I'd really like to see that up and funded more than the 15,000 that it's at. Maybe it's not necessarily the full 30, but I think somewhere in the middle there would be nice to come back at. And I know you got budget struggles too, as that does the city. But again, when this council acquired that was the big pitch, was tourism on there, and now it's kind of being thrown back onto the taxpayers. So that was my my pitch on that. But thank you for your presentation. Very well done.
You mind if I respond to the?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
right ahead. Yep.
I was able to see the email that you're talking about.
Okay.
Yep. I completely understand, especially the city's position and being sold that it was on tourism. I added that language from the statute after I read that email because I wanted you to understand that while that is tourism, it's not resulting in a high degree of likelihood of people staying at the hotel. But I also understand that there is a need for funding out there. And I believe that we're still going through that process. I will tell you, Adam, and you know me, we've worked well together.
Yep.
We will figure out a solution for it. There are not hard lines. Again, back to balance, there's no line in the sand that I've ever drawn. It's what are your needs? What are our needs? How do we work together to figure that out? We actually started at zero.
Mhm.
And then Kyle came into the meeting and basically said, well, we just can't do zero. Can you please help us get back to more? And when Greg was still here as city manager, I told him the same thing. I'm like, I understand there's an obligation that came through the acquisition. It was kind of a goofy story how they think it's DOT or Wisconsin DOT that gave it to us. I thought that was kind of a goofy way that they did it. They were trying to shed their financial responsibilities and put it on the city.
Mhm.
I want people to know that as well, that the city was basically required to do it. And it was a goofy story, but I think it was Wisconsin DOT was at fault here personally. But I know that the Room Tax Commission stands ready as a good steward of our community to help with that. I would also want you to know, I didn't know if you knew that we started at zero and already came back to understanding that there was a tapering off. Because when I look at it, this is just me personally, because I'm only one member of multiple members on this committee. but I was probably the loudest voice in it, saying, look, this isn't putting heads in beds, and therefore it is not creating additional revenue through the room tax. And it's our mission, is to create this flywheel effect of where we spend money to get people to stay overnight, and when we get them to stay overnight, they will generate more revenue. Now, and the room tax commissions, there has to be one hotelier that's by statute that's on that, and I'm that person. I take my personal position on there to be the one that speaks for the Lighthouse Inn, for Cobblestone, for Cool City. That's my job. And I always, first of all, whenever I'm on any committee or I look at anything, I was like, what's my purpose? What's my mission? And is it given to me? And if it's not, I ask a lot of questions. In this case, the statute gave it to me. So that's my position on it. But at the end of the day, it's about balance. So how do we get to a point to get the funding to where it works for everybody? You will have at least that reception from me when we talk about it, and there's no hard line in the sand. However, I do think in the long run, we have to get away from that and more towards the marketing of our community for tourism so that we can increase the room tax revenues to take the burden away from the taxpayer of Two Rivers.
I'm not going to go into a back and forth, but it's good dialogue. I would say in an indirect way, I do think that Wayside does help put heads in beds. And I think a lot of people, and I say that because I think a lot of people come here to use that path of which that sits on. And a lot of tourists, for that matter, will be gone from the hotel for, 4 hours, whether they're on that path and going to the statue or the Spirit of the Rivers and veer off, so on and so forth. That's their area to use that for a restroom. And again, it's not really the citizens. They're going to go to the bathroom before they go to the path because they don't really want to use it. Obviously, it's the tourists that are kind of stuck. So I do think it still puts heads in beds because I know a lot of people do come here to use our trail system, and that's a big part of that trail system. My 2 cents.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
This is how the sausage is supposed to be made. We have these conversations. I feel that it doesn't. You feel it does. You just made a really cogent argument about why it does. Quite frankly, I think you're right. It does. To what percentage or what the funding
May not be a big
mechanism is.
percent.
Yeah, we got to figure that part out. But I think you're right. When I start thinking about it, I'm like, well, you get the Spirit of Lakeshore right there. We do have people to come and see that. And even if it just gets people to come there and stop, the likelihood of them coming into our community and stopping at, one of our local establishments goes up, and that increases the possibility of them staying overnight somewhere. So I think it's a really great argument. It's exactly the kind of conversation we should have to get to compromise.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I
Yep,
appreciate it.
perfect.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Bonnie. Hang on, Mark. Mark, hang on. Bonnie's first.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
This isn't exactly a question, but I feel like this is not the year to start this because the citizens have been hit pretty hard with reassessed homes and seeing their tax bill go up. Well, that's really my comment.
When you say start this, you mean the concession stand?
What?
When you say start this, do you mean the concession stand? Start what?
Yeah, the concession stand.
Quite well taken. And I'm not here to advocate that we need to, I'm not here to advocate for that. I'm here to just talk about alternate methods of financing and what I thought should have been the conversation for that. And I also think we have to, in all of this, consider the will of the people. But I will also say, 20 people in a room is not the will of the people. The will of the people is the election.
No, I know that's true.
But I do agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, there was some contact to the council. A couple people had said they were willing to even pay more taxes for the idea. They liked it, but unfortunately, more people didn't like it. So I think it's always hard to decide because you don't really know. You wish you would know what the majority of people were thinking, but still, even if people did like it, I don't like the idea of starting it now, just because I want people to breathe after having paid so much last year on their tax bill.
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, didn't we do a little research on that $30,000 Wayside, and we determined that that does more than just the Wayside to beautify our city?
Yes.
Could I say something to that, Mark? The reason we bought it is because the county was shutting it down on Memorial Day. And we thought if it's stayed open longer, more tourists, it would be more attractive for tourists to come. That was the reason, big reason, one of them.
This is the additional research Mark is talking about.
Hang on, Mark.
The $30,000 figure is not just for Wayside, it's for trails and median maintenance. This includes other things like Cretin Landscaping. They do a lot of work, beautiful flowers all over medians and different parks and the library. So it's not just grass cutting at the Wayside, it's also trail and median maintenance elsewhere, which we are pulling back a little bit on Cretin Landscaping.
That's my point. So I think we addressed budget, that expense, and it does more than just the Wayside in this city too. Well,
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, we couldn't make the number zero. We have to pay for something. We have to pay for the maintenance, so that's why it came out to 15,000, so.
This is a lot for council to think about over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever, but on the current 2026 capital borrowing list, which you guys will approve in March, April, we're around that 250 mark, 250,000 for this. It sounds like that could go down to something lower for the property tax part and for the city borrowing part. So just however you guys want to lead us in the future on that. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, any other questions? Assuming we'll get a copy of this presentation at a later date. You already got it? Okay.
I can send it tonight or tomorrow morning.
And then we'll put it online with the
We'll
notes.
put it
and everything
online,
like that.
of course. All the presentations tonight will be online.
Yep. Go ahead, Bill.
I was just gonna make a comment about our museum or maritime museum that we were thinking about building. That could be a way to fund that because that was pretty expensive. Cost for that, $1.5 million. I don't remember quite, something like that. Don't do the concession stand, maybe. Other area where the room tax would be interested because it definitely directly affects tourism.
Talking about the also Riverside Park, we kind of pulled back on that. And I'm thinking that for Neshota Beach, if we are frugal and we spend some money wisely and fix it up, I think that it's a good idea. And I think a happy medium would be, if you want to have the things that were in the original plan that it wasn't Parkitecture, but it was some architects who did that. Instead of going left and right with that, which would destroy the whole look of our concession stand, we have room behind us. So down the road, if we've got the money, we want to spend the money on an area where you could have a reception, like wedding reception or like family reunions, it can be business. I think that's more, because then we're going to retain the look and the flavor and the purpose and what people like. But in the future, just progress and have it behind it. So that's just what I'm thinking.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions?
And Scott, if I may add into that idea of in the future, we have a property that we're moving forward with, the Hamilton property, that might, on an excellent sort of financing, that might be some sort of center in the property surrounded by other development activities. The city could utilize that type of resource.
Yep.
Whatever ends up going on the Hamilton property, and next year we're going to do a big community-wide buy-in vision process. So I have a shared vision of what we're going to put there. One of the ideas is some kind of visitor center, museum, convention center, something like that. That might require a very, very large revenue bond. I've heard this idea before. kind of makes sense. If we do something like this for the concession stand, this would be kind of like a practice, smaller revenue bond. So we get the feel of it, we get the flavor, we know how it works. If we see it's working, well, that's good. Then we could do something larger for the Hamilton site down the road. So kind of a practice one and then a bigger one later.
Any other questions? Not? Very much, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Let's see, on to B. Discussion of city schedule and fees and fines from a previously tabled November 17th meeting.
The schedule looks a bit different from a week ago when you saw it. Thank you for the feedback over the last few days. We're looking to adjust a few fees and fines that are overdue or that are too low. This includes license for short-term rentals, a new harbor sludge tipping fee, the sidewalk snow and ice fee that was approved last week by council, and restructuring of how building permit fees are calculated. The main point of discussion last week was how we should restructure building permit fees, which are way behind our comparables, and they're not bringing in sufficient revenue to cover the costs that we spend related to inspections. We're literally losing money when people build new stuff here because our fees are too low to cover the inspections that we have to do. Some new home builds require 20 or more different inspections as the project moves along. Building, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. It's important that the city is executing proper cost recovery in this area, and we currently are not. Considering development of all types as a strategic priority for all of us, this needs to be fixed. The new structure proposed tonight is simpler than the one you saw a week ago. We've changed it to simply charging a sliding scale of 2% the value of the project if it's a business property, and 1.5% the value of the project for residential, along with a minimum permit fee of $100. This will help our cost recovery as people invest in Two Rivers and keep our fees in line with our comparable communities. So I have 3 illustrative examples. A new home build, let's say $375,000 for a new home build. Right now, that building permit would cost just over $650. It's not enough. We're literally losing money on a situation like that. Under the new structure at 1.5%, that permit cost would be more like $5,600, which gets absorbed into the house of the construction or the construction of the house. Something like Taco Bell, a $700,000 project, huge corporate project. Right now, under our current fees, that building permit is $410. It's kind of laughable. Under the new structure at 2%, they'd pay $14,000. We're leaving a lot of money on the table. A kitchen remodel, a $40,000 kitchen remodel. Right now, that would be a $400 building permit. Under the new structure at 1.5%, they'd pay something like $600. A few examples. I think you all have the master schedule in front of you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, Bonnie, go ahead.
Do you mind if we go from top to bottom and just say, do you have questions on page such and such? I mean, some of this stuff, I'm not quite sure, like tactical emergency medical service. I just want to know what it is. If that looks like a new one, I'm imagining that's the fire.
Yeah, Dave, you want to
department.
talk about the tactical emergency medical services fee and the paramedic intercept fee? These are new ones.
The intercept fee is just to recoup the costs of sending Two Rivers paramedics out to an area outside of the city of Two Rivers. Just to recoup our costs. It's in response to increased costs for the paramedic ambulance to go out there. Tactical response is to bill for our response, sending our tactical medics out of the city of Two Rivers.
We would be charging those to the county and to different ambulance service providers?
That would go out to the entity that caused us to go out there. That was the intent of it. Not necessarily to the county. We do recoup funds from the response depending on what agencies are involved. If there's federal agencies involved, they reimburse us for all of our costs, our overtime and costs of going there. It's a very common fee that puts it onto the person that caused the response. Are we going to get a lot of revenue from it? Probably not. But it's something to put the burden on the person that caused the response. No different than we bill people for ambulance responses. Other questions?
Chief, could you maybe quickly define what circumstance would warrant a tactical emergency medical fee versus a regular at-home ambulance call?
A person is held up in their house and the SWAT team is dispatched
Okay.
to.
Gotcha.
Every fee on here is about cost recovery, not about cost recovery, so we're not losing money.
On our fire responses as well. And it's nothing out of the norm. Fire departments.
Any other questions? Tim?
For out of the city limits?
Out of the city limits.
Bonnie, another question?
Oh,
Or
what
you wanna-
yeah, I'm finished with that page, but, so the next one is, I don't understand this. Well, things like the borings under the street and things. What does it mean contractor closing road $60 a day? Is that something people have to, I'm sorry, I'm not talking into my mic. Is that something the homeowner has to do, and is that for repair of roads?
That would be something the contractor would have to pay for. That's not a new fee that gets passed on to residents, no. No, the contractor would have to pay that, doing the work, not the resident.
Oh. But is that for regular road work? I suppose it doesn't matter so much.
Oh, it's
'Cause-
for yeah, go ahead, Tim.
That would be if they have to open a road up to like get to the sewer or something.
Oh,
That's what they mean by opening the road, and
Digging out
at least
concrete.
that's what I'm thinking it means.
okay. I just would like to know what these changes are, because there were so many. This isn't like there was just 10 or something.
Sure, yep.
And then, well, so you need to have your sidewalk inspected if you repair or replace it? Nobody knows.
Yes, the sidewalks
You do.
have to be inspected.
All right. Okay, so then the next one is a person who conducts a transaction with a purchase without a middle vendor. What's that about? This is for bars and things?
Yeah, we added that description in there because all it said before was direct sellers. Some of the fees in here just had one line or one blurb and people didn't know what it meant. So we just added a little bit of a definition. It's a person who conducts a transaction with a purchaser without a middle vendor. Amanda, you explained it pretty good.
So pretty much it's your door-to-door salespeople. Salespeople.
Oh, okay. So I guess, I guess it's just $25. Some of them seem to, the price of the fee went up so much. Why is the cemetery charging? Is that like what everybody's doing now? Because these graves seem so expensive. You're gonna force me into my own garden when I die. I have already told people I could be put in a shoebox and just bury me next to that dead opossum.
Yeah, we did suggest an increase to the plot, the cost of the plots and a wintertime fee, trying to keep up with the increasing costs of everything we're doing. So we're running about an average year is just over $90,000 at the cemeteries for what we bring in revenue. I think the best year we ever had was 2022, and it was like 128,000, which was a great year at the cemetery. So yeah, just trying to increase those. By adding those fees, it puts us right about middle of the road in terms of being to our comparables. So we're not quite the most expensive, but we're also not the cheapest either. The winter burial fee that we added We've moved away from using a jackhammer, like a handheld jackhammer to break through frozen ground, because during the winter we can get frost quite deep. We've moved to a propane heater that's like this metal almost compartment that sits under the grave, and you blow propane into it and heats the ground, and you no longer have to use a jackhammer, but there's a cost to that as well. We would not have that winter burial fee. So that winter burial fee would be December 1st, March 31st, but it would be at the discretion of the cemetery supervisor based on what Frost is doing, if we need to use the propane heater to do that.
Okay.
All the cemetery fees have been reviewed in detail by the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Yes, so, and yeah, they did, advisory rec did make suggestions of not increasing certain things. So only a very few things got recommended for increase on the cemetery fees based on advisory rec's conversation.
And the only other thing is what the business property, the 2% of the value of the property, for example, on page, is it 7 on our packet? It's the one where, when I had asked, do you mean you could pay $75 to put a toilet in? So that was, maybe you could start explaining, or somebody, I guess you must have discussed this on the Public Works Committee. Did you? Is that where the fees were determined? No?
No, this is
Just
a
a
staff
willy-nilly
recommendation, not a committee recommendation. The 2% puts us in line with our comparables. If you want to know who our comparables are, that we did this with, that is Algoma, Brillion, De Pere, Manitowoc, Sheboygan, Sturgeon Bay, Wapaka, and Greenville. So taking those, all these are right in line with that. And some of them are going up a lot. I think the biggest being building permit, but we have a focus on community development here and trying to beef up that function. So the biggest adjustments are for the building permit fees. But that puts it into perspective with how far behind we are. These should have been adjusted a decade ago. We've been leaving a lot of money on the table for the past decade.
That's all. In your mic.
Sorry. Do you know the actual cost of a home to, I mean, it's $5,100. I can't believe it's that much.
The actual cost for our inspectors to go through for like a new
Right.
build home. Community Development Director Jeff Soxie is approaching the podium. He's got some more details on that. 15 to 20 inspections is pretty typical for a new single-family home. Taco Bell, I have no clue.
Yeah, it's going to be 15 to 20 inspections for a new home. And really, again, it's going to depend on both the complexity of the build as well as the complexity of the systems going into the property. So when staff was examining this summer, we were looking at comparables for a 1,600 square foot home. Again, knowing that all the other communities within the comps that we were looking at use a value-based system, where in the past we've used either a flat-based or a square footage-based system. And knowing that, again, that most of the homes in the Sandy Bay Highlands, which is our area of greatest residential activity, now exceed 2,500 square feet. So again, based on a 2,500 square foot comp, in all these other communities, they're coming in right around 1.5%, again, based on value. But in terms of the actual costs, in many instances, we have to consider both the cost of the inspection as well as the cost of the follow-up to the inspection. Because again, in many instances, there are code recommendations that need to be filed by staff, communicated to the contractors. So again, within that 18 to 20 inspections, there could be 5 to 10 other follow-ups that happen to, again, re-inspect things that weren't done right the first time. So, knowing that we are going to be reducing our total overall inspection expenses this year because of a staff change that we've made in bringing in a full-time inspector. We know that, that again, our costs will come more in line with the revenue that we'll be generating, but we also know that we are, again, based on the pattern of new residential builds that have happened, our new residential activity in the Highlands will continue to slow over the next coming years. So yes, there will be an impact on the builds that are happening, within the next couple of years. But we have left significant revenue on the table because of just, again, we spent significant money in prior inspections that we weren't able to capture through permit revenue because of, again, that relatively low fixed
I need
rate.
a number though. Do you have a number, average number?
The average number for the average cost of an inspection of a new build, and again, it's hard because it varies based on what home. But if I took one case example, our staff expenses for a build at 3200 Raleigh Court, which just finished in October, is about $3,400.
And the building permit was over 5,000?
No, the building permit was about $700.
I mean, with the new scale that you guys are promoting.
With the new scale, it would be, around 5,000.
Jeff, so your inspector kind of tracks his activity for each residence then?
Yep.
So we can track all that?
Yeah, he logs each visit as well as all documentation within our Ascend system. So we do have records for the assessment or the inspections at every property.
One home in Sandy Point, just as an example, it was $3,000 of inspection costs. I think
Yep,
that's what you just
about
said.
3,200. But that doesn't.
You've lost thousands of dollars on
Yeah.
building a new home.
Well, and that's $3,200. That's just encumbered in HVAC, structural, and plumbing, which are the only three.
Separate from that?
Electrical is in addition to, so my department only has purview over structural, plumbing, HVAC, and commercial. Electrical is run with the electrical utility, so there's additional expenses over that 3,200, but I can't state specifically as to how much. That's something Brian would have to share. Do you know how much your inspectors are out on the Highlands?
Like Jeff said, we do have to do some follow-up inspections if it's not up to code. It is tracked on their time cards, but breakdown per property, it's not. So it's just absorbed through the electric utility.
Yeah, you guys, actually, your inspectors are gonna do the electrical too, right? You don't have,
Not currently.
Not currently.
oh, it's separate. How much is it or how much is the proposed electrical?
All the building permit categories would be 2% or 1.5%.
Electrical's gonna be the same? It's not a fixed charge?
No, it'll be rolled in.
It'll be what?
It'll be rolled in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it'd be another $5,100?
no,
Oh,
it's part of that $5,100.
oh, I see what
Yep.
you're saying, okay.
I think a key is competitive with our surrounding cities that we are in the area. We're not overpricing. We're just trying to have to be competitive with building fees, right?
Right.
Yep.
Go ahead, Adam. I did message Kyle on a solution to this and wanted to do this same percent thing that we're talking about, but that was kind of when, looking at our sheet from last week, we were capped at $10,000. I didn't know that we were doing new builds as well as part of that. The paperwork I had from last week has it capped at 10,000 on the spreadsheet. Either which way, looking at Manitowoc right now, it says residential is 17 cents a square foot. which would bring theirs down into the hundreds for a new building permit. If you build, I can do the math, obviously. Build a 1,800 square foot house.
And if I'm looking at the comp that we ran 2 weeks ago for 1,600 square foot build, we're looking at about 1,700 in Manitowoc. You know, because again, the 17 cent per square foot, that's just structural review. That's not including their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, which are all permanent.
Right, so they're all at 300, so you go 300 3 times, you're in that 900 range.
Yep, plus.
But we're talking for that same house, we could be in and around 4,500. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's not too comparable. Because we got 3 of them, right? We got HVAC, got plumbing, so you got 4 of them. Electrical, but ours is absorbed right now, and theirs may be 2. So 3 for sure.
Yeah, well,
Would
an electrical.
put that under 1,000.
Yeah, an electrical is permitted separately.
Yep,
here.
so that would put that under 1,000.
Yep.
And we're going after 4,500. That's a pretty big discrepancy. And too high, in my opinion. I want to encourage people to build new houses, not drive them away from doing it. I mean, I want to recoup our costs, no doubt. Where we're at is too low, but where this is headed is, I think, too high.
I'm a little confused. I thought you were the one advocating for a 3% at the end of last week.
Right,
We're at
because
2%. Are you saying-
that's
are
where
you
I
saying now you
started
wanna
because
put-
it was capped. On our sheet that we had last week,
So what you're saying is you just want to include some kind of a cap on it.
well, I wanted, when we saw it last week, you were looking for an increase. And we had on our sheet, the last one on our ordinance as it stands was $10,000
The cap.
for the cap.
Okay.
We didn't have new housing and I have that paperwork. So our old paperwork showed it as, I want to say it was 250 or something like that for a 10,000. So I'm the one that said 3% because that would drive that up to 300. We weren't talking about new homes and the rest of it. So it sounded to me like we were looking to up the permit fee for, not new construction, but for, remodeling. So I was under the wrong impression when I gave you that. Does that make sense?
The building permit fees apply to anything, not.
Right, but
just
it looked like we
renovations.
were talking about remodeling because it was capped at 10,000. That was our last line on the sheet that you provided.
So if we do some kind of a cap, something like Taco Bell, a corporate entity could come in and spend 700, 800, $1 million. And you would want to cap that at something lower?
Yes, especially for houses.
Housing, yeah.
I mean, houses for sure, yes. But yes, I'm the one that did tell you 3% based on $10,000 cap. Going from 250 would bring that to 300, which would be an increase.
This is the time for the work to happen in the work session, and let us know how you would like to see it so we can revise it one final time for a vote at the next meeting.
Well, I could see other problems, businesses trying to raise money for like a hood in a restaurant, if it costs them $4,000 for a $20,000 hood setup, they're probably just gonna, what kind of choice are they gonna make? That's a lot of money, Make it, unless we got some kind of programs or something where we can help people out that do that. I don't want to do that. Don't get me wrong, we want to recoup our money, but how much?
Ultimately, it'd be nice to recoup all the money that we're not losing, but all the money that we're spending to have these inspections done. But I don't want to charge more money just because of a fee or something. It should just be, I don't know what it should be, but
It's hard to recoup the exact money because the inspector could be going back multiple times based on the work that's done at that particular property. And other properties, it could be very minimal inspections.
Well, and we know that our permit revenue is going to vary year by year just because the amount of construction activity that's happening. We're blessed insofar as we have a very active subdivision right now, which is obviously spurring a lot of new residential activity. But, on the flip side, if the conversations we're having with developers currently leads to, for example, 2 new multifamily projects next year. Based on the, again, existing permit structure, we're only capturing about $1,400 in permit revenue on both of those projects, which could be in the $6 to $8 million range in terms of investment. So, it's a matter of, again, of having proper inspection fees, composite to the activity and the level of effort that's required to actually provide, to provide assurances to those homeowners and those investors that what they're occupying, meets code and, provides a certain level of safety and liability assurance.
I mean, we could have it on a two-tier system where it's a remodel and where it's a new house. And then it's a certain percent under this dollar amount and a certain percent above that dollar amount to get that percentage back down as well. But you could have two separate ones. A remodel might be quite cheaper than a new home inspection. All depending,
I think it would be quite the opposite, that a remodel may require a more intensive inspection than a.
Okay, I mean, that's possible. I mean, Manitowoc has it at the same for both remodel and new home.
Right. Yeah, Manitowoc doesn't differentiate.
Would this accomplish what you're angling at? A cap of $10,000 unless the project is over $1 million. If there's a $7-8 million building, we don't want to cap it at $10,000.
Right.
We're going to lose a ton of money in a situation like that. Capping is some kind of a cap for a smaller project, but if it exceeds a threshold that's big, that cap should go away.
Are we talking about capping just residential or residential and business?
Up to you guys. Probably just residential.
Actually, it's slightly cheaper to do in addition in Manitowoc than it is to do new.
Yep.
All the numbers stay the same except for their plan review decreases according to the spreadsheet. So they have it cheaper on a remodel than they do on a new. According to what's their permit fee schedule that they just updated the 28th of October.
Whatever you decide to end up doing, we got to do something. We can't kick the can down the road for years on this one. However council wants us to bring this back for next week, we'll be done.
Anyone else with thoughts, comments? I would like to see, I think it's a little high if we go this way.
There one version that came out at 1%? 5?
I don't think I shared anything like that, but sure. I mean, we could do 1%, 1.5.
I just,
some
no, I
kind of a
thought I
cap.
saw that.
I don't remember.
About different, do you like this or?
I mean, I want to get people's opinion. I'm talking something. Contractor.
Correct. Right, and we don't want new homeowners that we want to come here to scare them away either.
It would be most productive for staff and for the 2026 budget as we're building that and projecting revenues. Whatever council wants to direct us to do for this document, we'll do that and queue it up for December 1st. Because those numbers will feed into the 2026 budget.
I know other state agencies, if they have to come do a re-inspect on something, they'll have a special fee just for that. Like if they come to do the electrical or the HVAC and something's not right, they have to come do a re-inspect. If they have to do it like a second time or something, then there's an additional fee for them having to come back.
Like to see that added to the fee schedule?
Yeah, I thought. See it on this one.
So do we want to see it at 0.5%, 1%?
What if you somewhat did what Manitowoc does and base a new home off of an amount per square foot, and then if they're doing a remodel, base it off a percentage of the cost of their remodel for HVAC, plumbing?
What was Manitowoc? Or
What was 17 cents a square foot, which might be a little low in my opinion too, but you could go somewhere around that 20-25 cent range, still be competitive. And then if you're doing the remodel, you could go back to a percentage of the cost of the remodel versus doing a square foot. I mean, if you're doing a small project in the whole house, I don't know if that square foot would go against the square foot on a remodel of what you're redoing, or if it includes the whole house. My guess is it would include the whole house, because if you're doing HVAC, the HVAC is covering the whole house, but it's a very small portion of the house that you're actually remodeling. So it might be better to do a percentage of the cost of that remodel for the HVAC system, if that makes sense, versus taxing the whole house.
something or no?
No, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
I prefer the value, over square footage, because I mean, if you get into, instant hot water heaters and, multi-zoning, that all adds into the cost and more complicated inspections. I would be more in favor of value, a percentage of the value rather than square foot. Listed off maybe 5 communities that we used as a benchmark for this. I mean, Manitowoc wasn't one of them, obviously, but.
And he listed off Manitowoc as one. He did list Manitowoc off as
Yeah,
one,
Manitowoc was one of them.
Manitowoc is on here.
but it's not comparable, I
It all
guess.
depends how
Yeah,
you
it's
slice the
not,
data and look at it. I mean, every community does building permit fees very differently. All I know is we're about 10 years behind in adjusting these.
Yeah, I
If
think
you, and if
go.
you, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you cap it at 10 grand, that's like a $650-ish thousand house. I don't know how many houses are gonna. Just
Could be.
I mean, the $10,000 cap would be okay in my,
Well, what's a $10,000 cap for? Total project?
yeah. Yeah, and it would be broken up between the electrical, plumbing, HVAC.
Thoughts? Oh, it's a tough one, right?
I do believe in the two-tier system, I guess. I think it helps the homeowner, business owner more, and also helps the city in recouping more of its costs than what it's currently doing, but it's also not being overly harsh. We want to encourage improvements and encourage new builds, yet recoup our costs and not hurt the homeowner, business owner. I mean, you get $1 million project or $1 million home and man, you're paying through the roof in permits based off that. Which would make people think twice.
Okay, so we'll take this current document, we'll put a $10,000 cap on it for projects, but that cap falls away if the total project exceeds $1 million. Bring that back for a vote December 1st.
Also send us the comparables that you did.
Yes.
I'd just like to see the other numbers and
Try 1%, 1.25.
and 1.25, okay.
You try it Manitowoc's way?
What's that?
Can you try it Manitowoc's way?
25 cents a square foot?
Go 25 cents a square. There's a
Oh.
17, but I think going up to 25 would be
Yep.
worth looking at because they may up theirs in a year or so as well.
I mean, because if you do a 2,000 square foot house, 25 cents, that's $500
Per fee, per one, multiple permits.
for permits, yeah. So Jeff has more information or,
So Adam, just to clarify, one of the reasons why we wanted to simplify the permit schedule is because of the fact that for building electrical and HVAC, our current permitting structure follows the Manitowoc approach where it's based on square footage of project. Where our building permits are based on value of project. So basically what we've created then is an inconsistency where, if you have a HVAC project where you aren't putting in a lot of new ducting, then the permit fees are low because of the total impact. We haven't run estimates looking at applying a square footage basis to our building permits. It's certainly something we can look at to see if doing that gets us a better percentage estimate. But right now, for HVAC, electrical, and in plumbing, we are charging 1% of value for those projects where we are currently charging 1% of value for projects that are value-based, or for permits that are value-based, just as a means of basis of comparison.
Right, so square footage was for new home built.
Yep.
And then percentage was back for remodel, so you weren't taxing them for the full square footage of their house, just the valuation of the remodel.
Yes, because we have different permitting structures, or we have different permit classes for any structural additions, so new and additions, and then a separate permit for things like sidings, roofing, and windows, and different permitting fee structures for those two classes. So we'll figure out what that one perfect round number is.
I don't want to get too cheap on because the scale as is going to go too cheap on the people doing a remodel.
Yep.
Way too cheap on that.
Yep.
And it's going to push that to the people that are building new.
Yep.
And I don't like that. I want a balance. And then that's why I think the approach with square footage for a new one and a percentage for the remodel is a fair, healthy balance for both people trying to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the percentage, we are theoretically at 1.5%. We are way lower than what we are now for someone that's doing a remodel.
Mhm.
We're actually going to lose money more on a remodel than what we already are.
Yes.
But for the people that are building new, we're going to tax them to death on it to try to make up for someone else that's in a remodel. And I'd rather see that more balanced.
Well, and I'll give you another example of the inconsistencies we have in the fee structure as well, is because of the fact that decks in sheds are part of this square footage based assessment process. Someone may be able to maybe putting on a $40,000 deck, and they're charged less than someone who's putting down a $40,000 addition onto their home. Even though, again, on value basis, they're doing the same, they would require the same number of structural inspections. But for that $40,000 deck project, that permit fee might be $100. So really, again, when we are thinking about how we actually reform this structure, it is about building more fairness into those projects so that the people who are being undercharged are charged fairly without overcharging those, that shouldn't be, which is, again, that the needle that we have thread in anything in government finance.
Has the council seen this document before? The document we're talking about?
I don't know what document you're talking about.
The fee schedule, the master fee schedule. That's
Yeah, the one that was
We've seen
read it out last week. That's where it had a cap.
No, but before I brought it forward, has this been last year or 2 years ago?
That. No, I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've increased fees before, but we've never seen it on the full document like that. We've seen when we increased, I know fire department had some fee increases. We saw theirs separately. We didn't get the whole document for all fees.
Gotcha. So this is the first time the master fee
Correct.
schedule is being
Yep.
presented to
And that's
council.
why
That
when it
makes
was
sense.
capped at 10,000, I thought that was the cap of what we were doing.
So I would like to bring this forward to council every year at the end of the year for tweaking and adjustments. And if it's not working well, we'll change it. So this will be something you'll be seeing once a year or 2 or 3 times a year if we want to talk about it a lot. But I want to bring it forward every year as part of the budget process.
Go ahead, Tim.
As of now, we do have a reinspection fee of $50. I don't know if this new thing we're looking at, if they're taking that out. I don't know why they would.
That's not enough.
$50 done.
I mean, it doesn't even show that on our fee chart that we're looking at. This is different. This is the old one. New one doesn't mention.
What section do you see the reinspection fee? Like the
It
title
says 11-115.
11-115?
Yeah,
It's,
reinspection, $50. Page 7 of 9. I got in the fee
Oh, yeah,
schedule.
reinspection.
Yep, right, kind of right in the middle.
So the new one just didn't go up, but that's one place where we could charge more too.
Charge more to that?
For those people that didn't get it right the first time. Not the homeowner's fault, but it's their contractor.
That I could see.
It's also
That I
not
could
the
see.
taxpayer's fault. I think that's playing it fair.
When you see this, again, the reinspection fee will be higher than 50. Good call.
Page 6, at the very, very bottom, it's 11. That's what we're talking about, right?
All those.
Reinspection.
Over to page 8, at the very top, 11-1-15.
Yeah, they all fall into that same section.
But these are split out,
11-1-15.
it's just not one after the other. It just seems to me we have 11-1-15.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
section.
Yeah, that's just where you would go find it if you wanted to look up more details on it in the city code.
Yeah, that's the code section. So you go
Those
to
are
what?
broken down to themselves, okay.
Like Title 11, Chapter 1, Section 15.
Anything else?
Lots of good feedback. Thank you.
Any other fees or anything else?
I still like the 2-tier system. Just gonna
Okay.
put that out there.
2-tier as in remodel and new.
Correct.
Yes, I like that too.
I think there should be something at least for council to look at and discuss that way as well. To make sure that we got the best system, if we're gonna change it, the best system going forward that's best for the city and the residents as a whole. Not that we're letting the remodels get away with way cheaper and it's costing us money and taxing the new homeowners to make up for the rest of them.
So what are we asking staff to do? What's supposed to come back to us?
Couple different models.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna look at both?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Do you want me to bring forward 2
Mm-hmm.
different
please.
models?
Mhm.
All right, not 3, 4, 5. We're just gonna do 2. I hear what you're saying, and then we'll do
Did you hear me?
the other way as well.
I want a 2-tier system.
Yep.
What, was it 2 or 3, Adam? 2. 2, okay.
Just making sure.
Oh,
One?
wait, Shannon said it was 1, so.
I don't know, is it dustings?
I think her mic cut out.
Us, you can pick one of those options, and that'll be the motion to vote on whichever one you choose. Got it.
Well, and yeah. Okay, we good on that one? Everyone? Okay. To the highlight of the night, discussion of draft fiscal year 2026 city budget.
Take a break, anybody? Do we need a break? I don't need a break, but does
I don't need a
council
break.
need a
I'm gonna go
break?
grab a water, but you can keep talking.
Coffee.
Coffee break.
You can keep going.
Or background check. Good Background checks.
I don't know.
Because if we're paying for them, we should.
All right.
You'll have to ask Ben. I don't know how they release those records.
Okay. Because you know what, what I mean.
Talking about the,
ASCAP or CCAP
CPO.
doesn't have all your stuff on there anymore.
That's St. Luke's.
So
Okay.
if you're paying for it, it'd be nice to get a copy of it so you have it for next year for when you,
Run it every year.
but at least that way I would be able to write down my stuff that I'm being asked where.
Yeah, you'd have to ask him. I don't know how those records are listed.
I think that was.
Or is it-
ready to age.
Oh,
No, I don't
okay.
think so, but,
So I was like, that's been done for a while.
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna take a break. A break?
Okay.
Let's power through. Come on.
More numbers. Just keep on with the numbers. It's my favorite.
Somebody that.
I'm going to too.
Right?
Contractor ain't gonna pay for that.
Yeah, it's gonna end up coming back on.
It'll be at the
And
bottom
reach your
of the
shirt.
page.
This one is just a
You think it's the contractor?
the dog.
What is made you pay for a permit, right? They tell you to go get one. I'm worried about somebody putting up a garage. or
At the
something.
finance committee meeting last week, they went from 500 in the budget and they bumped it up
Gotta
to
have
more because they took
a couple of
the money
things
away
for exchanging air and stuff, you know. It's got
a little bit more
gas.
flowers in the cemetery.
And then he, well, with $1,000 building permit, back permit. That's what I'm concerned.
Vote tonight, we'll go over it tonight. Council will give us direction
What
on
about the hood
We'll
thing?
bring it back for a vote on December 1st for the whole budget. This budget has 0% in it because that's what Personal and Finance Committee decided on last week.
We're gonna, all business.
Library,
I asked, you know, what, you
I
know,
was not at the meeting last week.
like that.
Priorities. That came up at the last.
Yeah, I think I just gotta figure out.
Yeah, that makes total
Talked
sense.
about creating.
Just wanna
a
make
new
sure
fund
that we don't
for
get
that
too
on their
expensive.
own. Maybe the city can donate some to that, if they were gonna donate a couple thousand to that, don't let the city manage it. 100%.
Put an indoor pool in.
Flexibility on what's a.
Yes.
What's not.
What would be
You know how to
a
reach me,
fair
right?
$30,000. I mean, I guess, put on a sunroom, that's more of an addition. I consider that new construction, I guess. I consider adding on to your garage, new construction, it's not. Yes, I mean, it actually all covered.
To me, a remodel is, I have a garage, but I'm, right, that's, to me, that's remodeling it. You're not, it's not new.
And if you add on to it, that's more.
Oh, and like for the permit, and it was like per permit, they were thinking it was like $750 per permit. Like when we put on the sunroom, it was like $750, like, do you remember this conversation? Yeah.
That would probably be valid at about 20 grand. And that would be $2,000 building permit.
Yeah,
But it
for
was
each inspection.
a little over 70.
So how?
But if you want by square footage,
Yeah, I know.
it's
So
14 by
like,
20 room.
well, I guess my question is, what was so bad? I mean, like, I know I voted to get, like, I wanted to see this cleaned up, and I wanted to see that, but like, I didn't think they were gonna change it to percentage. I like 50 or whatever. I thought that made sense.
Oh.
I don't know, accurate, it's $3,200.
And more. Been there for a while.
I was making.
What's that?
Yes.
Huh.
No, oh, no.
That's right.
And this is like,
Oh, we're squeezing every drop out of that budget.
Why did rutabaga come to mind? I have no
A
idea.
rutabaga.
A rutabaga.
Honestly,
Rutabaga.
that's hard. Aware.
Revenue is
Waiting for Tim. Timothy. You done? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but,
Right.
okay, we are back at it.
Like it's not.
We were talking about the discussion of the draft fiscal year 2026 city budget. City manager has a bunch of slides to go through. If we have questions,
Big if.
please ask.
Big if.
Big if you have questions.
There might not be any.
Well, I have some, but let's go.
I am really sorry that you have to hear me talk for the next half an hour. We have to talk about $42 million tonight and how we plan to spend it. There's a lot of important material to cover. I'll try to go brief, but it's also a lot of important material. It's going to take me about half an hour to go through all this. This is way too much talking from me. It'll go faster, I think, if we jot down questions and comments at the end, and maybe we can just take all the questions at the end instead of as we go through, which is different than I normally like to do it. But let me just get through these 22 slides as quick as I can. Okay, let me walk everyone through the key points of the draft 2026 budget and some of the major challenges we're facing as we build it. First, at a very high level, this is a stabilization budget. It's not that exciting. We're applying a 3% lift to total general fund revenue and a 3% lift on the expense side. It's a very modest increase, and overall, it's a pretty stable budget that keeps everything going for one more year. To get here, staff spent weeks meeting with the Personnel and Finance Committee. We had 8 meetings in all over 8 weeks, reviewing department budgets line by line, trying to hold the budget as close to status quo as possible. This is not an exciting budget in any way. This is a challenging budget. The budget funds the core operations of all departments across the city. It supports our workforce, which is 125 full-time people, and it provides continued investment in capital infrastructure and the people who deliver every day. This is a status quo budget that doesn't change too much, and it really is just meant to bring stability for another year as we make some tough choices over the next year. 2026 does present several challenges that made this very tough, tougher than most. I've only been here a little over 100 days, but staff has told me this is one of the harder budgets we've looked at in a few years. Why? First, when the city kept the tax levy frozen at 0% last year, which was necessary to do, but we fell behind financially. Costs during that time continued to go up due to inflation and wage pressures, but the revenue did not. So that creates a compounding gap going forward. Second, health insurance premiums are going up a lot, an 8% increase next year, including $57,000 just for 22 retirees. That alone places a lot of pressure on the general fund. We're also seeing
Explain those I know you didn't want us to interrupt you, but that's a point that a lot of people don't know. Those retirees, right, no longer work for us, but we are paying their insurance for the next 5 years as if they were an employee, which is taxing the city residents $57,000. And it's not bad for the employee. That was a benefit they were offered. But again, that hurts our budget.
exactly right. Good explanation. Thank you. We're also seeing escalate.
In fact, replace that retiree with new person.
We're also seeing escalating costs in several key areas that continue to rise faster than our revenues. MMT Route 1 falls into this category. Next, the development environment has been slow. We've had low levels of new construction. This has been holding down our permit revenue and limiting our levy authority for the following year. Finally, this is tough because we're managing 2 new unfunded mandates for 2026. We have a new DNR requirement for a certified waste collections operator, which is a brand new full-time position, and required DOT bridge inspections coming next year. These are important mandates and we will comply with them, but they come with no state funding attached. So you put all this stuff together, so there's a lot of pressure that makes 2026 not a fun budget. Be very transparent about this. The general fund is treading water and we're barely squeezing by. Our finances leave a lot to be desired. We've got some tough choices to make over the next year. This slide shows that our 2026 budget is technically balanced on paper, but only because we relied on some assumptions and one-time fixes that will not repeat. We're counting on $150,000 in sales of city-owned industrial land, $160K in debt premium applied to the general fund, $20,000 we reduced from public works seasonal hours, We cut in half the funding for the certified collection system operator. We're not going to hire them until halfway through the year. So that cost will double next year. And then we have a one-time payment of $305,000 related to the cell tower. So you put all that together, it's $668K of temporary Band-Aid solutions that we cannot count on again, which means we have to find a way to make up $250,000 gap. Zooming out, talking about the entire city budget, not just the general fund. When we take all funds into account, we're going to manage more than $42 million of public money next year. That's the full picture of the whole organization. This is everything we maintain, everything we invest in, everything we do. So while the general fund gets most of the attention, it's really just part of a bigger overall financial picture. Proposed 2026 city budget proposes an increase of $223,000 in total property taxes to be collected by the city. I guess that's $224,000 if you round up. The property tax levy would increase 3.8% from 2025 for a total levy of $5.7 million. Last year, you did a 0% freeze. If you average that out over 2 years, that's less than 2% increases over 2 years. The proposed 2026 budget proposes no changes in rates for electric, water, storm sewer, and solid waste. The new rate structure for wastewater is included in the 2026 budget, and that's expected to add about $250,000 in added revenue for the wastewater utility. Things we've already cut. Let's be clear about everything we've already cut or scaled back on to build this budget without pulling back on MMT Route 1 funding or any reductions in force. We approach this budget with the mindset of tightening operations everywhere we could, and before we proposed any levy increase, we made sure we'd taken a hard look internally first. We delayed the creation of a full-time civil engineer position, even though we have imminent retirements coming in Public Works. Second, we cut in half the collection system operator position, even though that's required for the state wastewater permit, so we won't hire that position until June. We identified several operational efficiencies like the Snow Watch program. These are duties that were previously handled by Public Works standby staff are now being absorbed by Police Patrol to reduce the cost on that. We reduced overtime and part-time seasonal staffing, especially in Parks and Public Works. This means we'll have fewer hands available for parks grooming and maintenance and weekend coverage. That's going to hurt, but it was necessary to control spending. Another change is the replacement of 2 school resource officer squad vehicles. These SRO squads are between 7 and 9 years old, and they would normally be replaced by now, but we pushed that to save money. We postponed the purchase of water leak detection equipment. We scaled back the $1 per hour raises for seasonal and part-time, reducing that to 50 cents instead. One good thing is that we already switched our municipal insurance carrier earlier this year, saving the general fund about $120,000 a year. This would be even more difficult without that move. And finally, we plan on redirecting net revenue or any future lease revenue from the concession stand so that it goes towards stabilizing the general fund instead of going into special events. General fund is where we budget for the core day-to-day operations we rely on: police, fire, EMS, Public Works, Parks, Rec, Forestry. For 2026, the proposed general fund spending is $12.934 million, which is a 3% bump up from 2025. This fits within the state's expenditure restraint program, so we're good there. This is a good time to remind everyone that the general fund is overwhelmingly a people budget. With this budget, we have 125 full-time positions. Nearly 90% of what we spend here is tied directly to personnel. The people who plow the streets, respond to emergencies, patrol neighborhoods, keeps the water safe. There's no reductions in force in this budget, and 2 important needs that are new. We finally have a full-time community development director, which we all agree is critical because we have shared goal of economic development. And we got the new certified collection system operator, which we're funding for half the year. We also included a 3% wage increase for non-union employees. That keeps us competitive in the labor market. And then police and fire, their wage increases are looking at 3% too, per the union contracts. We talked about the 8% increase in health insurance. One of the biggest cost drivers in the general fund this year is due to that health insurance. That cost is unavoidable for 2026. It affects every department and every employee covered by the plan. So when you look at why the departments are going up, a lot of that goes back to the 8% bump for health insurance.
I don't want to keep interrupting you, but one more
Fine.
time.
Go ahead.
Hopefully last time. when it comes to that certified collection system operator, aren't we swapping that with a mechanic? Is that correct, Matt? So it should have a net zero impact even for next year's budget, because this year we're getting a half mechanic and we're getting a half of this, which will still be one full-time employee. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay.
So overall, it's a 3% budget. It's modest. It stays within state imposed limits. And it really focuses entirely on just maintaining what we already have. Talk about COLA for a moment. This plays a major role in employee morale and our ability to recruit and retain talent. This helps ensure that our workforce doesn't fall behind. Without it, we risk higher turnover, lower morale, and difficulty filling critical positions, and we know the labor market is very tight. So for 2026, we're using CPI data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Midwest region. It shows a 3.1% increase for the year ending September 2025. This is realistic, data-driven benchmark. This is a good thing to rely on. So matching that number keeps us aligned with real-life economic conditions. Some may wonder whether we could save a lot of money by lowering the COLA. No, we can't. A 2.5% COLA would only save about $15,000. 2% would save about $30,000. In a $12.9 million general fund, these amounts really don't solve the bigger financial pressures that we're facing, but lowering the COLA does have a negative impact on employees, especially those at the lower end of the pay scale. So from a strategic standpoint, reducing COLA any farther than 3% would hurt employee morale and retention more than it would help the budget. So the 3% recommendation is about protecting the long-term health of the organization. Where the money is going, general government costs are going down 3% next year, largely due to that transition to the new municipal insurance provider. Other things are going up. Every operating department that relies on the general fund is going up between 3 and 4% next year. This is not outrageous. I think it's practical and reasonable, even financially prudent. Police are going up 3.2%. Fire is going up 3.6%. Public Works is going up 2.5%. Parks and Rec is increasing 3.7%. But they do a lot more than just Parks and Rec. Zooming out and looking what's the total dollar amount increase for the general fund for next year for all of this, it's $381,000. I think that's pretty small considering everything this covers. Taking a closer look at the revenue side of the general fund for 2026, revenues are up 3%. This gives us just enough room to maintain stability without exceeding the expenditure restraint program. That 3% increase is a total of a lot of different things, different revenue sources. Some are growing, some are shrinking, but together they keep the general fund balanced. One of the largest components of this is the shared state funding. We get just over $5.8 million from shared funding. That's an increase of 1.9% from last year. The expenditure restraint payment is going down by $57,000. That's because the formula is tied to prior year spending and the 0% levy restraint. So overall, state assistance is up a little, but not enough to keep pace with inflation. Property taxes, critical piece of the general fund. For 2026, property tax revenue will be around $2.4 million. That is up $125,000 from 2025. Driven by the levy catch-up adjustment, new construction, property value changes. We also rely on a variety of smaller but important revenue streams. Charges for service total about $1.7 million. Special assessments are about $280,000. Interest earnings are about another $150K. So individually, those are modest, but together they help diversify the revenue base, and we need to diversify our revenue base. Those overall revenues and expenses are up 3%. Oh, this is where the money comes from. Municipal fines and permits, which we just talked about, those are a small 3% portion of the pie. It brings in about $400,000 annually. Miscellaneous revenue is something usually not worth highlighting. That went up a lot this year. Looks different than the normal at 5% of the whole pie due to that 108% increase from the cell tower ground lease arrangement the council approved. This is a nice one-time revenue bump we achieved, but it's gone for next year. Intergovernmental revenue is critical here, equal to $5.8 million. This includes state shared taxes, aid for local highways, and the annual expenditure restraint payment. which we're getting again because we kept the overall increase at 3%. The goals we want to focus on next year. This is not all of them, but these are the areas where we want to intentionally focus our energy, your money, and partnerships. Our first priority is getting shovels in the ground on new multifamily housing. We need more units, both market rate and affordable. We're also refocusing our industrial strategy, making sure we're being proactive, targeted, and competitive in how we attract new employers. We've just started taking a hard look at underperforming TIF districts. We probably have too many TIF districts, with the goal of terminating those that are no longer productive, which would strengthen the general fund tax base. Riverside Park will be an exciting project for next year. We're also planning to elevate neighborhood pride through more proactive code compliance with the police department. Not punitive, but focused on clean, attractive neighborhoods that reflect the pride people should have in Two Rivers. We need to continue planning for succession and key functions. Several retirements are coming up, and we want to aim for smooth transitions. And we absolutely have to transition to a new employee health insurance program next year. One of the biggest efforts for next year is more about civic engagement. We need community-wide buy-in for the long-term vision of what Main Street should look like and what the future of the old Hamilton property should look like as well. We need to be inclusionary, get more people to the table, sharing ideas and helping shape our shared future. Take a look at the debt. This is the portion of the budget that pays out our principal and interest and where we cover our long-term investments. For 2026, we're proposing a tax levy of $3.2 million for debt payments. That's an increase of $100,000 from 2025. It might sound like that, but to put it in context, in 2025, we are retiring $2.27 million in principal. Next year in 26, we're going to retire another $2.3 million. At the same time, we have $2.19 million in new general obligation debt proposed for next year, all issued with a 10-year repayment period to maintain our strong debt profile. So this fund also covers the interest side of the equation. In total, we'll have about $610,000 in interest payments next year. This covers both our existing debt and the new debt issued for next year's capital. The key takeaway from this slide is that city debt remains stable, predictable, and well-managed. We're continuing to retire older debt at a healthy pace, but we're still investing in the future of our community. 2026 capital borrowing, we're looking at $2.19 million in new GO debt next year. The largest project is the replacement of the 1994 fire pumper truck at $850K. This vehicle is over 30 years old. We're also proposing $453,000 in street resurfacing from 18th and 19th streets, from Jackson to Emmett, and then also Emmett from 17th to 22nd Street. Also, whatever we end up doing with the Neshota Beach building, we have that plugged in at $255 right now, or something lower if room tax and revenue bonds would cover. And Riverside Park renovations totaling $179. We just got another $50,000 grant last week. We're throwing towards Riverside Park. So like 75% of that project is covered by grant funding. City Hall also requires $70,000 for some parking deck repairs out back. Funding the police, updated police technology with 2 new squad car cameras. We're replacing key parks equipment like lawnmowers and gators that need replaced. We're also planning on $130,000 for concrete and sidewalk repairs, and then a few smaller equipment replacements like a battery tester and auto scanner for Public Works. Next is the library fund. While the library board manages operations at the library, the council gets to set the amount of property tax support the library receives each year. Our library is deeply embedded in the community. You guys know that. Important for the senior population, young families, and everybody in between. The library sees about 70,000 people walk through the doors annually, and it has about 100,000 books in circulation each year. The library board is set to meet on December 9th to review their proposed budget for next year. For 2026, the initial recommendation was a 2% levy increase, which is just under $14K, bringing the total city support to $695,000. However, after review of just how incredibly lean the general fund already is and how much we already cut, the Personnel and Finance Committee recommended holding that increase at 0%, and at this point, the draft budget shows that direction. With the levy held flat at zero, the library's total operating budget for 2026 would be just over $1 million.
Well, I'd like to add something here. You want me to do at the end? But the finance committee met last Wednesday night, and there were only 2 or 3 people there. And in order to keep this moving forward, I vote that but I would like to bring it up again. The library board wants a less than 2% increase, and we held it for 25 and the same as 24 budget. I think that's being premature. I think we ought to reconsider adding the $13,635 to the library. It's a gem. It'll be less than 50 cents impact on homes on our levy. And I think it's something they need from the cost of labor and insurance and new books, and they do so many things in programming and events. I'd like to appeal to the city council in general, because there was a stalemate 1-to-1, and I didn't, why can I bring the budget forward to this meeting tonight? But I would like to suggest we reconsider add $13,635 to the library and give them a 2% increase in the budget.
Thank you, Mark. Gotcha. Heard you.
I have to agree with that. And then
I would second
we
that.
get, last year they got nothing. This year to give them nothing. They have wonderful programs for not only children, but for adults. It's a wonderful place to go. It's not just books anymore. There is so much that library does to enrich our community. And to not get $13,000, I don't want to say that that's trifling, but in the grand scheme of things, you have to look at, I'm looking at the emotional side, residents, taxpayers, you have them. Just a minute, Mark. But we have to remember that, we're a community that is looking out for our people. Saving money is fantastic, but what is getting ruined? And I think that we should go ahead with what was originally recommended at 2% and give them 13 grand.
Mark, did you have something else?
No, I just think Charles, you're right. You said with children too, and senior citizen benefit. That's an important thing for our community, and it's an attraction for the city.
Okay, thank you.
I'll keep going. Almost done, guys. 15 and 22. Special revenue funds, dollars that are used for specific purposes outside of the general fund property tax levy. These funds let us deliver important community benefits without adding to the already overburdened property tax levy. Here's a quick look at the various special revenue funds we have. We have 12 active TIF districts. Room tax and tourism support marketing and visitor activity. Park concessions and special events, those funds reinvestments right back into parks and community events. EMS grant supports equipment and training. We got a few of those. Electric utility. This is a municipally owned electric utility, which means the ratepayers are also the owners, and any profits are reinvested into that system and not paid out to investors. This is a public utility, not a for-profit utility. We belong to WPPI. It's a member-owned, not-for-profit agency made up of 51 public power utilities across Wisconsin, the UP, and Iowa. We are one of those 51. Long-term electric contracts and wholesale power decisions require approval of the whole WPPI board. Because WPPI is not-for-profit driven model, it sells power to the same, it's governed by the communities that it sells power to. So the organization focuses on rate stability and reliability. They are not focused on quarterly shareholder returns. In Two Rivers, we are responsible for an energy substation with 145 miles of overhead power lines, all the streetlights, 45 miles of underground lines. Next year, expenses are forecast to go up 4%, with most of the increases due to wages, insurance, and retirements, plus leaning more into underground electric utilities instead of overhead. And those No rate increase is proposed for 2026, but the need for one will probably be here soon because it's been 5 years. Water utility, another publicly owned model regulated by the state, delivers high-quality Lake Michigan drinking water. The treatment plant provides advanced filtration, disinfection, and continuous water quality monitoring. The 2026 operating budget for this fund was squeezed tight for next year. We did $145,000 in dollars trimmed back, or we cut almost 5% of the overall budget. All operating and capital costs are funded through water rates. The last rate hike was in 2023. So again, that should probably be looked at in the near future. This infrastructure is very capital intensive, which is why long-term planning is essential. We don't want to fall behind in this. This particular utility has huge capital costs that are coming in the near future. If you guys remember, we reviewed that a few work sessions ago. That gives me heartburn of the huge capital costs that we have to and how we're going to afford that coming down the road. It's going to be a huge challenge as long as we have our own water treatment plant. Sanitary sewer utility is another self-funded state-regulated utility. For the most part, we enjoy a well-functioning sewer system. It's one of the least visible but most critical components of our city. Like many Wisconsin communities, Two Rivers Sewer Utility is facing several major cost drivers. Many of our sewer mains are 50 to 90 years old, and they need replacement soon. This is millions of dollars over the next decade. The 2026 operating budget is at $3.1 million, up 3.9% from last year. Earlier this year, the state DOA notified us that sewer revenues were not high enough to meet the required debt coverage ratio for the clean water loan funds. We had a shortfall of about $280,000 over 2 years. We have to maintain access to those clean water loans. It's critical for low interest financing. So we got the new restructured rates for 2026, which will result in most residents seeing a $3 to $5 per month increase, smaller adjustments to the base charge, and higher increases for larger water users. So all this makes the sewer utility more financially stable. 2 more to go. The stormwater utility manages and maintains our drainage system, pipes, ditches, catch basins, culverts, and detention ponds to prevent flooding and protect water quality. This is funded with a dedicated monthly utility fee of $6.90 for a typical residential parcel. Expenses charged to this utility are decreasing next year by about $61,000. Large portions of the stormwater system are 50 to 100 years old, and that requires investment in the coming years. And then, of course, the DNR and new regulatory requirements are always coming out of them. It just continues to increase the costs. Solid waste utility is responsible for residential garbage and recycling collection. Revenues are generated from the monthly environmental fee on utility bills, garbage sticker fees, and support from the state. This funding model keeps our waste management costs off the property tax levy. One of the fastest growing costs here are the landfill tipping fees, which have risen a lot lately. This utility budget is forecast to go up 2.6% for next year. That is how, on a very upper level, we're going to spend $42 million next year.
Any questions? Darla, go ahead.
Back to page 6, please. Yes, okay, at the very bottom, the net revenue received from concession stand directed towards the general fund. When we started off with the whole concession stand conversation, it seems to me that our goal was to put that revenue back into the cost of maintenance for the beach. Why is it not going to do that? If I had known this, maybe I would have voted differently, or I would have, I would have agreed with something else. I think this kind of came out of left field, and luckily somebody brought it to my attention. I just think this is get the money back into the beach.
Well, the beach gets paid from through the general fund. Do you know where it went before?
Two weeks ago, the Personnel and
Do
Finance
do you
Committee.
know where the net revenue went from before the concession stand?
Oh, I didn't know.
It went to pay for special events. It did not go to the general fund to cover the beach. Right now, the general fund covers the beach, and we're putting it back in the general fund to do just that. Before that, it went to go pay into the fireworks, into the bands that are on the beach, and into the bands downtown. So it's
Okay,
actually going back to the general fund to help pay for those costs, where before it was not.
okay. So those costs are coming from general fund,
Mm-hmm.
so okay,
So it's actually going to
Okay.
cover those costs now,
okay.
or
All right.
help cover those costs, and maybe indirectly. It's not going directly to that fund, but it's going to the general fund, which maintains the beach.
Okay, I'm not mad anymore.
2 weeks ago, this came out of Personnel and Finance Committee as a recommendation, not from last week, but the week prior to that.
Okay.
So, sorry, Darla, if you had another one, but then how do we pay for fireworks and the bands on the beach and in Central Park?
Director Mathis.
Well, that's supposed to be up to tax rolls anyway, so that's supposed to be paid through with sponsorships, which they already do.
Not entirely, but I think most of it is covered.
Sorry, Mark, but I'm got a handout that didn't get finished till today, so. Let's start on the side that's labeled number 10, page 10, down in the right-hand corner, you'll see a little 10. So if you're on the side that says 10, Nashotah Beach operating. So this is the first table on the left will be new revenue next year going to the general fund for the trial paid parking operation. The projection on there that's maybe a little bit high is credit card fees, but I'm projecting that if we do what we say we're going to do, we'll bring in an additional 13,000 or so. From the paid parking trial for 10 days. Then if you move over to the right table, total cost for us for the operation of the beach, 35,000 is the low end on total annual operating for maintenance of the beach. This does not cover the sales and staffing of the concession stand to sell things. This counts for grooming, trash, cleaning restrooms. You can see beach groomer oil and gases on there, porta potties, restrooms and supplies, the subscription for the SwimSmart beach alert system, the dumpster. I do not know the truck, compact loader and gator, like hours, the wear and tear hours on those. And then utilities were right around $4,500 for the season where the beach house is active. So really in the grand scheme of things, low end is $35,000 on operations of the beach. It's very, very low, I would say, for the value of the beach. Flip to the other side. These are the special events we fundraise for and put on through the city. So this table, when I wanted to break it down by the net revenue per activity to give an idea of where we're losing or making money on these. Bands on the beach, by far our most popular activity, does, lose a significant amount of money, but this is balanced out by the concession stand revenue, which this year is just slightly over $10,000. Our goal going into 2026 was to pull back on downtown Friday nights because it was new. It also loses a chunk of money. It does not have enough sponsorships to cover the entire cost, but if we were going to pull back, we'd prefer to do it on downtown Friday nights instead of the cornerstone of Bands on the Beach. And so this is all, the concession stand makes this budget work, essentially. We're already, if you take out the concession stand budget, which is the bottom line in here for this year, we've raised $53,000 on our own through sponsorships and donations. And so then the 10,000 makes it possible for us to get very close to breaking even, at least. If you look at did put a note on here. If you look at the 2025 official calendar year, January 1, December 31st, it'll show us losing a little bit money, but I had to go back into 2024 to pull sponsorships that got deposited in that year to encapsulate the exact per event revenue. So yeah, there's a number of things that go into this. The other thing I would say is the concession stand. Operating that concession stand takes a lot of sweat equity. There's really no incentive for our staff to run that concession stand in 2026 if we're not taking the revenue to support special events. My suggestion would be to go towards a contractor running the concession stand. We used to do that before 2022. Let a outside vendor, we could have a lease fee on that.
And that would be for one year until we figure out what we're doing.
Right. And then we also have already had conversations with Two Rivers Rotary. They've been selling beer at Bands on the Beach. Two Rivers Parks and Rec is going to take over the beer sales and take all the revenue from the beer sales at the beach. In the event that we are losing the concession stand revenue to be able to make it up and maintain the events, even without Friday night concerts, we would still need to take on the beer sales to be able to take over, maintain the level of events that we have going. So that gives a little bit of context, hopefully.
Really, Mike, I hate to see the Friday nights go away completely. Is there any way we can preserve?
I've been pitching that if people want to donate $1,000 for one Friday, we will schedule one Friday. Last year, we scheduled 10 in advance, and it was clearly too much because we did not have sponsorships to follow along with that. So my pitch is that if people want to see Friday night concerts continue, they donate $1,000 and we'll make it happen.
You also sell beer there like Rotary did?
Rotary, how did I say? We had a discussion about this that likely Rotary would be back for Fridays to sell beer.
Now we're taking away from the downtown Friday night, right? You're looking at,
I'm cutting that entirely.
but we can talk about having at least one. I know we're cutting it because the establishments downtown, it's hurting their business, especially. if
That's
they
not
have-
why I'm cutting it.
Okay, well, that's the way I'm looking at it, and I have to agree because you don't want these establishments to be losing.
And that is not, Jeff Soxy, correct me if I'm wrong, that is not the results of the survey that we've done in downtown. The majority are generally in support of Friday nights.
Yes, please.
We did do a survey of downtown bar owners, and we did hear from two bar owners that were had expressed concerns about the Friday night concerts. One who expressed concerns because of the volume of concerts scheduled, basically stating that the limited Fridays during the summer, that because Parks and Rec scheduled 14 concerts, that it took away from their ability to schedule live music. And the other bar owner that we heard from was actually more concerned about the beer sales occurring in the park rather than the concerts, because the particular bar owner had provided beer to the Rotary to sell and felt that selling that product undercut their sales. So those were the only two overwhelmingly negative pieces of feedback that we received regarding the Friday concerts specifically.
The end, the ways or the means to get to where we're not going to be competing, or we're not going to, for what you're saying, why you cut it. You guys and I were looking at different reports, but I think if we stick to one, because people also are used to going downtown to these concerts. So I kind of feel bad cutting them all out.
Yeah, we're losing money and we're cutting the concession stand, which is $10,000 in revenue to make it work. The other issue is that on Thursday nights, we scheduled 14 concerts. We are cutting the community band. So the community band historically has had $8,700 in the general fund to pay them for their performances. I'm actually blanking on what we cut that to, 2,500 or something like that. It's
I think you brought it down to 4.
Maybe, yeah, we're at least cutting it in half. So community band is going to have a very important decision to make is, do they volunteer for those concerts? Do they not do those concerts? Or do they go fundraise for more money? So right there, we're stretching the Thursday night concerts with fewer performances, likely because we're not funding the community band.
That's what makes all this so challenging is everything's interconnected. You start pulling on a string over here and it affects something over here, right? That's the fabric of community, right? Flowers, community band, concerts, beer sales. It's all small taken like individually, but it's all connected to the bigger piece and all these unintended consequences where you start cutting here and it affects something over here.
Flowers, though, we are keeping.
Flowers, I think what was agreed on in personnel and finance was there, and I don't know where this number came from, was $2,180 was going to stay in the budget for flowers when we normally have $6,000 in the budget for flowers. I'm not fully sure how I would spread that money around at this point. We've all along tried to we kept $500 in initially for the flowers. Just in case people came to us and asked if told us that they wanted to continue to have flowers, we'd have a little bit available. Personnel and Finance Committee made a suggestion to add more back. So we are at 2,180 of the 6,000 that's traditional.
Plus the 500 that's in there.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
And then the hope was to get more help from room tax, from our friends in the back there, to continue doing more work at the wayside, which would reallocate money back to the perpetual flowers instead of to the wayside, which we haven't done before. The other option that was come up with was cutting Cretton by enough to pay the rest of that perpetual flower fund. So Cretton, who does take care of some of our medians and stuff like that. So there's a couple options there to get the rest of that money, but the personnel and finance, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, agreed that we need to get the money back in there this year, and we've already come up with 2,700 of that to be back in there. It's a matter of his room tax helping cover some of the wayside so that can alleviate the property taxpayers from paying for the wayside, or is it going to be cutting Cretton and their services for what they do in the medians?
I would also say, to clarify there, I've already included in the budget a $13,000 to Cretton's services. So this year I'm projecting like $33,000 for Cretton Enterprises to maintain a lot of the ornamental beds, the islands and the medians coming into town. They do all the ornamental planting here in East Central Park. Their bill had gotten up to $33,000. We've honestly never adjusted that budget to increase to actually be what it should be. Because room tax was covering portions of that. So I did cut that budget to $20,000 from $33,000 to make that happen. I again had to cut a lot of flowers out of that budget to get them down. So all the ornamental flowers in East Central Park would no longer be there. We'd put ornamental grasses in that are cheaper. The planters themselves that are East Central Park and West Central Park would continue to have flowers. That preserved flowers on the island median coming down the middle of Memorial Drive as you come into town, because we know that looks very, very nice for the community. That cut also means we only mulch every other year with Cretton for all those island beds, for the random sign beds that they do across the city. So yeah, there's some pretty significant cuts that are already in the budget for Cretton.
So those were kind of the discussions we had to find the rest of that remaining, about $4,000 to get that. Big help would be again from room tax to pick up another $5,000 of the wayside maintenance would help alleviate that burden as well.
You left one thing on the table that was discussed, and I got excited about this option at Personnel and Finance Committee last week. There was an idea, and I think there was momentum around this idea, of a resident group or some kind of a charity group, citizen-driven group to start a new perpetual care flower fund. Don't let the city manage that, but they would run it, and maybe the city could donate money into that. We actually had a citizen request or volunteer to donate the first $1,000 of their own private money into that. So if that does get legs and become a real thing, that might be a way out of it for the
I
city.
think we planned on that to start next year, that we would fully fund this year in hopes that they could start that and invest their money for years to come, so we could slowly take this off the tax rolls as they build that fund and invest it into bonds or whatever they feel fit, so that we can take that off fully. But this year, we feel that we should find the rest of that money with a couple options that staff will have to determine, or I know room tax, I keep throwing them under the bus, I feel bad, but I know they meet in December, and hopefully we can find a way to get some more wayside money.
I just got a quick question. Mr. and Mrs. Herbola, are you happier now? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting grass for 2 days.
I'm sure now that, I mean, there's some room for these guys to flesh out a plan. So, but at least we have something to work with. It's not taken away.
Operationally, this is y'all's decision. Operationally, if we had the $6,000 to buy the flowers, we can plant the flowers. So it's not the big deal.
Right. That's something I can take care of that.
So fully funding the perpetual care fund for one more year. What's that? We need 10,000 total?
6,000.
6,000 total. And we're at 2,700. Okay.
We started this conversation about the special events and the concession stand.
Right? Flowers, library, and direction on what you would prefer to be cut so we can find revenue for that.
Any other questions?
Want a couple?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, I do want to address what Mrs. Dalkey came in here and said earlier, and why projections are up when the total yearly to date will fall lower than projected, and why. And there's a lot of things that change within the budget, including budget amendments that happen. And there were amendments that happened this year just for the inspections. So sometimes we'll put projects on hold and we'll tell Parks and Rec, we'll tell the DPW, you name it, hey, we need to find 1% in your budget because we have a shortfall in inspection. So this year we had a lot of overtime in inspections, and I think think it was 50 or 65,000, we had a fine to pay that. So we have department heads reduce their budgets and not do certain things so we can balance the budget in other areas. Their full intent and our full intent is for them to do those projects in years to come. And that's why you'll see those projections stay the same, sometimes increase, because they're going to get their full budget back the following year to take care of some needs within that department. So that's kind of why you see that. And where else did I want to go? I don't know. I forgot already. That was the first one I want to tackle.
Not always are the expenses all up to date on the budget, even though we try monthly. Sometimes they're not all caught up too. There might not be that much surplus in the budget.
Correct. Yes, thank you, Mark.
I do know what they were. I do believe the flowers have to go. That was part of our recommendation, and I don't mean go, I mean they need to go into the budget. That was part of the recommendation. I know there's some people up here that do want to see the library get their full funding, and I've got nothing against the library. My kids go there all the time. It's a great place. And yes, they had no increase last year, but neither did anyone else. We had a 0% tax increase across the whole system last year, and even this year we went back and we made almost every department lose money to balance this budget. Last week, as far as last week, when we had to really crunch numbers, we took money from every department to balance our budget, and we felt that I felt the library should have to fall within those same realms as every other department, whether it was DPW, police, the administration up here in City Hall. Everyone had to find a way to reduce their budget in order for us to balance it. We had a $65,000 shortfall that we needed to be within with expenditure restraints, and we worked tirelessly to get it down to where we are now, and felt it was only right that that went across the board. So, but that's the explanation that I have for that.
In the case of the library, they have to stay contemporary too, with purchasing books and periodicals and other things too. So we shouldn't punish an organization that delivers so much to the community. That's my thoughts there.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
You said insurance premium, health insurance premiums went up 8%, right? Do you have can you quantify that? Is it 100,000? Is it 10,000? And second question of that is, when we switch carriers next year, will that go back down?
Cassie, can you look up the first part of that question?
Yeah, just the ballpark's fine.
So we know we have to fix this next year. It's a strategic thing. We have to cost money to surcharges have to pay over 2 years, not all up front or anything like that. It'll be annualized over 2 years. Will it go back down? Hopefully it'll go down. I mean, we're hoping the coverage will be better and the premiums will be lower. And they'll be more forgiving because just the whole model of the new insurance program would be a different model. So it should be a triple win. It should be better coverage at a lower cost and more forgiving for claims coverage moving forward.
Was that 8% that hit help out at all with that increase or no?
85-15 split right now. Yeah, 85 the city.
Our share is the 8% and they got hit too. Okay.
Employee place.
Sorry.
So the problem with health insurance, just to kind of give council a little background here. So we originally we were quoted at a 17% increase this year. And then with the carrier we had, they quoted us at 9%. I went through and found a different broker who got the same coverage down to 8%. Now, it all goes off of our claims. So unfortunately, how insurance works is if you use it, it goes up. And the state this past year, which is the other part that Kyle's talking about, had an 11% increase. So we really have to weigh where we're going to end up with next year with the surcharges and what's covered, because the plan design's completely different. So I don't want to just say we can plan on not having that next year. But it's a hard game to play when it comes to health insurance.
We hope to.
I'm hoping.
That include the,
Retirees also pay the 85.15, so the city covers. I did quick math the other day on that. Have retired 2047, so.
That process ceased for new employees?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? Questions?
Does also cease if they leave. So if they decide to go to find a different job before they retire, they have to retire here in order to get that benefit, not just serve so many years, they have to retire here.
And the other unknown reality is if they're replacing as a family, they don't have a family, then we have increased costs too. So it's really a tough game to play.
Anyone else? Questions? Something to read over, look over for the next couple. When do we vote on the budget
Monday.
officially? What's that?
Monday.
Monday? Review it this coming week. Come back. Reach out with any questions or concerns or anything.
so if everybody's saying what they want more money for, does anybody have any suggestions or things we should look at and what they want to cut to make up for that new money we need to find? And this is the hard part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in order to get it back down, you gotta find 13,000 in cuts as well. And if, you also gotta find another 4 for perpetual care flowers if you want to, see that go. So either it's help from room techs or it's cut further into Cretin. And I mean, those are the only 2 ideas that have come up, at least as far as what else to cut. It gets pretty tight and scarce, looking anywhere else, but it's about, if you keep the levy as proposed, is you gotta find another $17,000 to cut.
It's an incredibly lean general fund. I knew I was stepping into a tight budget here, but wow, it's very, very tight and there's no drunken sailor spending. We're not spending like drunken sailors.
Okay, anything else? Over, ask questions if you have questions. Kyle's always available, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, on to that then. There's nothing else. I just have, oh, sorry. I wasn't ready for that.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask a
Okay,
quick,
fine.
quick question. It's not on the agenda. Who's going to the parade on Friday? Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yes, it's Saturday. Sorry. I always thought it was Friday for some reason. You're gonna be there?
Yeah, am I
I'll be
the
there.
only one? No, well, I wasn't gonna go if you weren't going.
4 or 5 of you are.
We're gonna be there. Okay, I'll be there.
Oh, she's gone.
1, 2, 3. So
But I'm
4 of us?
driving.
Okay.
Oh, stop.
I will, if my daughter's watching, you will be handy candy out with me. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Yes, you got a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Can
Do
I
have-
second it?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you and good night.
That wasn't
That's what they're
too
gonna
bad.
start.